you guys so much for coming to in-person REO. It's exciting to be able to have these in-person events again. Thank you guys for coming back, and we appreciate having you all here, obviously. We're going to kind of start things off with Sky, and then kind of moving on to like our business units and stuff. So everybody give Sky a hand, please.
Morning, and my welcome too, and it's great to see people in person. It's been a couple of years since we've been able to do this. Super psyched to have that, and welcome to those that are on the screen. I'll do my best to try to stay on camera, but I roam, so I'll try to stay in my box up here. I want to try to cover a bunch of stuff today, but one of the things, more over here, just like I said, not too good at that. Try to cover a bunch of stuff today. We are doing things a little bit differently this year from REO or even new hire orientation as well, just because we can do stuff in person. But we had some fairly good feedback on the video programs in the last couple of years, so we're kind of doing a hybrid. So we just recorded the video yesterday, so you all are going to get a little bit of a duplication because I'll cover some of that stuff today as well. But the plan is to do a video. It's about 15 plus minutes. And then do these in-person ones where I can be more in-depth kind of on what's going on. So bear with us on that, but most importantly, welcome to winter. And snowmaking crew's done an amazing job taking advantage of all the good weather we've had, so I assume everybody in the room knows. But we're going to ski and ride on Monday. So it's our earliest opening ever, first time in October. And as I was reminded, those that know me know I thought it would be in the spring actually, but I want to bike and ski on the same day. But we made one step forward, we're going to do it in the same month. So we closed up biking in early October and obviously opened up for skiing and riding in late October. So super psyched about that. The other thing, anybody look at the ski magazine rankings this year? Yeah. Absolutely. For those that did not, we are now in the top 10. We are number 9, which is awesome. Still top 10. Still top 10. And most importantly, we're ahead of Steamboat. They're number 10. So we ran one ahead. We're the second highest ranked Altera resort. Deer Valley's number 2, and we're number 9. So kudos and thanks to all of you. You all are part of that. We've been slowly creeping our way up in that ranking, and it's kind of great to be there in that top 10 category. So with that, quick update from an Altera standpoint. I think probably most of you know, but just in case you don't, we have a new CEO, Jared Smith. He started as CEO on August 1st. He's been with the company since last June. He started a year ago, last year. June 21, he started as president, so he'd been in the company a year. This was all sort of part of the transition plan, and Rusty Gregory, who was our former CEO, or now former CEO, retired on the 31st of July, and Jared took over. So it's been great to have him in that seat. He's bringing a different perspective to us. For those that don't know, he came from Ticketmaster, spent 17 or 19 years there. Comes with a technology background, comes with a data background. And comes with a different perspective sort of on how we go about business, which we're really excited about. Our company is filled with people that understand and have been in the ski industry for a long time, and I think it's super helpful to have somebody kind of come in from the outside, particularly with sort of his customer data and technology background to really help us move those kind of things forward, because as you all know, that's not technology in particular is not a strength of ours, not only here at Winter Park, but at Altera, but across the industry. The other thing that he's been doing is, and I'll talk a little bit about this more specifically to us, but just bringing a different focus on how we're kind of running the business. Number one, if you've heard Rusty talk in the past, he always kind of ranked guests, employees, financial stakeholders in that order. We've always got employees, guests, financial stakeholders in that order. And so Jared's actually joined that ordering. So employees first, guests second, financial stakeholders third. So that's great to hear that focus with putting the employees sort of back at the top of the heap. The other thing he's doing is trying to align us across the company a little bit better. So introduced a new thing called OKRs, which I'll talk about in a bit and how it relates to us. But really trying to get the resorts and sort of the Denver team kind of aligned around common metrics, common initiatives, and things like that. Over the last couple of years, particularly with COVID, we've been kind of scattered, and it's been hard to kind of figure out what some of the priorities are, particularly when we talk about resource allocation. So it's really great to see from Jared on down, really trying to bring that to the table. The other part of that is the continual evolution of sort of how we interface with our Denver team. You know, we have, I think hopefully all you know, but you know, our vision statement is one company of many unique brands building a global mountain community. Easy to say that, very hard to do, because we really are trying to allow the resorts to have their own unique brands and be able to have the autonomy to make the decisions that we think are right on the ground. At the same time, there's things, particularly from a technology standpoint, a lot of other things that a company of our scale can bring to the table. So we continue to sort of work through that, but with Jared kind of starting to lay out priorities that go, you know, across the enterprise, it's quite a bit more helpful to understand sort of who's doing what, where we have a lot of autonomy, where we have some autonomy, and to a certain extent where we have no autonomy. So it's really excited about where we're going. One thing I would remind everyone too is we have a great ownership group that continues to support us. They've made some great decisions over the last couple of years. They've allowed us to have a lot of autonomy as a company. Most importantly, and I'll hit this toward the end of it, but you know, continue to put a lot of capital into the company. All of you that were part of the latter part of the Interwest era with me, know that's not something that we had much of during those latter couple of years. So, you know, capital, if you remember when the company was first formed, I think the announcement when they did it, that they were going to put about $500 million of capital into the company in the first 5 years. We're approaching $1 billion. And actually with the capital that's going to get announced for the next couple of years, or next year, will be above that. So they've more than doubled what they said they were going to do in the get-go, because we are 5 years old. So pretty exciting to have an ownership group that's that committed to what we're doing. Quick recap of last year. So last year was nothing short of extraordinary on all fronts. So thank you all very much. I'd like to give yourselves a round of applause while we do, and I'll tell you in a minute what they all are. We were one of the only resorts in Alterra last year to exceed. We have 3 major metrics. Hope you all know what they are: employee engagement, net promoter score, and our financial results. We were one of the only resorts in Alterra to exceed the prior year in all 3 of those areas. So we moved our ES score up a point to 80. We moved our net promoter score up 4.1 to 56 and change. And then we had a record financial year. And we also broke 1.1 million visits. That was a record visit as well. So pretty much across the board, and how we measure it at the top, you know, from those 3 metrics, you all knocked it out of the park. So thank you and congratulations. Pretty exciting, particularly coming from the year that we had before, that we'd all just as soon forget. To put those kind of numbers up is really, really impressive. Also, if you all remember, it didn't quite start like this last year. And so we had a really tough start all the way through to Christmas, right? So the whole first, 4 days was really, really challenging. So if you put all those things together, coming out of COVID, tough start, all that stuff, to put up those kind of numbers is totally impressive. So thank you very much on that front. Make sure I kind of go in order. Quick summer wrap up. Summer was a good summer for us. We had kind of planned it to be based on last summer, and that was a little bit of a stretch because last year, coming out of COVID, was just kind of a record year across the board. Certainly in Colorado, but just in sort of mountain tourism, for those that maybe talk to some of the proprietors locally, everybody's singing the blues a little bit this summer. We're really down compared to summer 21. But the reality of summer 21, it was just off the charts. People were just wanting to get out. They wanted to go to the mountains. International travel still wasn't really available. And so that summer really was probably not the benchmark we should have used for a budgeting. But from a net promoter score, we raised that as well. Bike visits were strong, record sales in bike passes. We were mostly down on the day ticket side on the bike park. And then we also had a little bit of a shortfall in our activities business as well. So overall, it wasn't perfect, but all things considered, we came out of the summer quite well. So that positions us reasonably well. We're slightly behind our plan, which We like to try to be on plan when we go in the winter, but we're a little bit behind plan right now, but I think we've got the opportunity to catch up based on the indicators we see today. So from a capital standpoint, we spent about, or in the process of finishing up spending, about $13 or $14 million in capital this year. We had about $6 million in maintenance capital, which we've been trying to increase that number each year because we used to be a little bit higher than that. So given the scope of our business, trying to get that number up. But the biggest investments this year were all in infrastructure. First and foremost, for those that don't know or haven't seen it, we have an employee housing project underway in FLOT. It's going to be 332 bedrooms when it's completed. We're in the phase right now, finishing up concrete and all the site work, button it up for the winter, and then we're going to go vertical on the construction next spring. It's a modular construction being built out of Idaho. So the plan is come spring, we'll start, as I like to say, rack them and stack them. And we're plan right now, unless something gets in our way, we'd be occupying in fall of 23. So essentially a year from now, we'd be bringing about 332 beds online right on property. One of the things we did, and the reason I said bedrooms, one of the design criteria we had was to give people their own space. So while there will be sort of common amenities, kitchen, bathrooms in some cases, there are some studios in this as well, everybody will have a lockable door. So there's not multiple beds to a bedroom, which is a big step forward to what many of our things are today, where we multiple beds per room. The other thing that we'll do too, because right now we have about 475 beds under ownership, lease, or winter rental, so to speak. We'll keep a large share of those. So our goal right now is to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 beds come next fall, which we know that housing is obviously one of the huge part for all of us and attracting employees to come work for us. So we will be in a place that I don't think too many resorts will be in a year from now with that kind of beds, but most importantly with 332 beds on site. Very few resorts have that kind of housing in their area. So really excited about that. Anybody gone over to the Jane lately?
Yeah. Pumped over there.
Gotta drive slow on that road now. Yeah, you do, right? Because you got to watch out for the roller skiers, the skateboarders, and who else told me they're over there. So we paved the Jane Road all the way in. So it's you got to drive slow to change the point because it's like a super highway over there right now. So that we finished that up. I think actually just last week we striped the road, guardrails, all that good stuff. So that's super exciting. Over there, anybody that's driven that road, particularly in the spring, knows how much fun that was. So that'll be a nice arrival experience for our guests over there. We were also able, on one of the earlier sections of the road, widen it a bit more, so we got another 50 or 60 parking spaces on the road as well, so we added some parking spaces. On parking, the other thing we did, if you haven't had a chance to see it, across the street from where the employee housing is in G-Lot, we expanded that lot significantly. They're finishing it up right now, putting kind of the top coat. It's going to be a gravel parking lot, but put a top coat on that. That's about 500 additional spaces over there. If you all read some of our Net Promoter scores last year, our biggest detractor was parking. So to add that in, of course, we're losing 130 or something like that in FLOT. But the net gain is for this year is that with the ones on the Jane side is about 350 parking spots. So really excited about that. So like I said, this year's investment was mostly on the infrastructure side. And one of the rationales about that, one is just planning, but for some of the bigger stuff on the mountain and in the base, but really is to try to get ahead of some of the concerns, right? Housing's a big concern, parking was a big concern, Jane Road's a little bit of a bonus. But the reality was instead of trying to do some of the more fun stuff, as we continue to grow volume here, we need to make sure we're doing the right thing on the infrastructure standpoint, because the other side of that playing catch up is pretty hard. You know, once you're sort of over capacity by a lot, it becomes very challenging to play that catch up game. And so I'm pretty grateful that we got some good investments. At the same time, for those that live locally, you probably know some of this, but the town is doing the same, which is awesome. You know, they put the new town facility out here on Highway 40 last year, finished that up. And then for those that drive County Road 5, you know about it, but we're putting our new lift ops locker room out there. Anybody see that stuff?
Yeah.
If you drive by, so the town is putting a new transit center out there, but the sign says Winter Park Lift Stops. I was going to go tell the town they needed to change the sign, but I'm having too much fun with all the people asking me why we're moving our lift stops out onto County Road 5. But that's a huge, huge deal for us and the town and the community, because that really takes the lift transit system to a new level, to have an inside facility where they'll be able to maintain the buses. It's located a little bit more centrally as they continue to expand down the valley. So the point of that is the town also is making, in my opinion, a lot of the right infrastructure investments and working alongside of us on some other housing opportunities down in the valley as well. So a lot of good stuff from a capital standpoint. Where we're going, probably a lot of you saw the in the spring we announced we didn't announce it, the press announced it for us. But our Forest Service Master Plan, we have to go through a process every 10 to 15 years of renewing that. Doug and team here have been working on it for 2.5 years. That came to conclusion in the spring, and we actually got acceptance about a month ago from the Forest Service. The way that process works, we have to do that as part of our permit let the Forest Service know what we want to do in the future, but equally as important, what we've done since we did the last one. One of the drawbacks of having everybody pick it up is it caught a lot of headlines, town gondola, this, that, and the other thing. But the reality is, if you go back to 1985, most everything that we put in this plan was in that plan. So it kind of came out from a press standpoint that all this new stuff is coming around, and it created a little bit of a stir for us because it sounds like there's a bunch of new stuff. But the good news is we've gotten acceptance from the Forest Service. The way that process works, acceptance doesn't mean approval. It basically means we agree with what you want to do. And then as you put those projects forward, you need to come in actually and do a permit for each project. So there's a lot of stuff on there, particularly as we think of Town Gondola and some expansion into Vasquez and things like that. We have to go through and actually get permits to do that work. So just because they've accepted the master plan does not mean we can actually go build it tomorrow. There are a couple things in there that actually are approved. Some early phases of our snowmaking expansion are approved. Replacement of the Pioneer lift is approved. And there's a couple other smaller things in there that are approved. So once we get internal approval on the dollars, we can move forward on some of those projects. And then we'll also be working on the planning as we go forward on the other projects. So main focus out there hasn't really changed from my perspective from an on-mountain capital standpoint. Lift, snowmaking, and food and beverage facilities are the three top things from a mountain standpoint. And then from a base standpoint, we continue to work on the master planning with our team in Denver and Jared, our new CEO, who's intimately involved in all that. You know, access and parking is one of the key things. Obviously, hotels and all that kind of stuff too. But you all know better than anybody how challenging access is to access your products from where we park our guests. So that's the one from an operational standpoint. That's one of the primary things that we have on the list as we think about the base area master plan. Is how do we improve circulation and access to our facilities, in addition to additional lodging units and all that stuff. Any quick questions on capital? Okay, operationally, so I mentioned earlier the OKRs, and that stands for objectives and key results. But one of the things that we're trying to do on that is really get prioritized. So what we did when we went through our business planning process, we really took that to heart. And part of that is making sure you kind of skinny down what you're trying to do, at least at a high level, and keep it focused. In the past, some of you have probably seen long lists of initiatives that we have going on. We got a lot of works projects going on, but when we were trying to think about resources and sort of what's most important to all of us, I won't read them off exactly, but we have three. Basically, employees is one, arrival is another, and terrain utilization and expansion is the third. Building capacity, really. The one that's employees is written a little bit differently because it's really about getting to the point where we can operate our resort at full capacity. So you all know in the last couple of years in particular, staffing's been pretty challenging and we haven't been able to operate at full capacity. So it's not just about, you know, getting fully staffed, but it's about all the support mechanisms that we need in place to get fully staffed. So that goes to the basic stuff of recruiting, hiring, and all that stuff from an HR standpoint. It goes to housing, it goes to pay. We've changed our compensation substantially in the last couple of years, but this year in particular, we moved starting wage from $15 an hour to $18 an hour for this winter, and current and returning employees to 20, from 15. So we've continue to address compensation. It's a work in progress, given those kind of moves. But so that's really the first one. It's all about, building the right culture and getting the right number of people here to run the resort fully. So there's a lot of things underneath that. We're building metrics around that. The second one on arrival is a little bit broader. And really what the focus on that one is, how do we get people to what they want to do the quickest and easiest way? So it's not just about driving in and parking your car. It's about how do we make sure you can get to the products and services, hence my point earlier about access to your all's product, getting people closer and easier access here, because right now it's just the opposite. It's about the hardest thing to access, right? So we took the arrival as a broad focus of not only, like I said, just the pure arrival process. Obviously this year, some of our capital was deployed at the actual arrival process with G-Lot and the Jane, but also looking at, line management. How do we move people through the process? One example that we're actually a little ahead of the curve on is how we do sort of fulfillment. Some resorts make you go one place to buy ski school or rentals or whatever, and then you go in your line to actually get the product. One of the things that has been going on here for quite a while is everything's sort of bought in one place, right? If you go to Village Rentals, you can get everything you need, so it's one line. Now, we'd like to eliminate that line, but the reality is you don't have to wait in multiple. One of the things for those that were here late in the spring with us over at the Jane, is anybody over there skied a few times over at the Jane? Did you see the new units we have for food purchase, the Mashin units? So we have, for those who were here this summer, we had them up at Sunspot, but it's called Mashin, and it's basically a self-checkout. It's not like you think about the grocery store where you scan it. It's actually, you set your food on, 2x2. AI cameras take a picture of it, ring you up, hit your credit card, away you go. If it works seamlessly, which we've had some challenges which I'll talk about, but if it works seamlessly, it's about a 10-second checkout. It's incredible. I don't care how good you are at a cash register, you can't check people out in 10 seconds. Where it works really well and what it was designed for originally is prepackaged goods. So anything that comes in a package with a barcode, whatever, it's super good with that. Really, really good. What we were experimenting with all summer was plated food. Fresh food. Hamburger on a plate, French fries on a plate. It's still a little immature in its learning capabilities for that. So if you had a hamburger and the picture in the computer said it's not supposed to have a bun on it, I put the hamburger down, it takes a picture, tells me the price. I put the bun on it, it's like, you got me. I don't know what that is. So we're working our way through that. So we were going to roll this out pretty wide. And the reason I bring it up is from a line management standpoint, a staffing standpoint. If we can get these deployed fully, it will eliminate some labor. But most importantly, if you can get at that 10 or 15-second checkout time, it improves capacity through, food and beverage. So, if we can address the lineup on the getting the food side, if you can get through the registers that fast, then that whole experience, then the next jam up will be seats. But we'll figure that out. So those are just a couple examples of things that either we're doing today, like our fulfillment, on sort of the arrival process from a guest to product standpoint. And then the final one is on the terrain standpoint. And actually what we're doing today is part of that. But last year, if you all remember, and this is just one example of the things we're doing, Christmas time, mid-Christmas break, Hughes looked like what? A little bit better than it, but a bunch of piles of snow, right? And it was that way for, I don't know, better part of 2 weeks, I think, maybe, something like that. And, the reason for that was a couple things. One, the way the weather struck us being so cold, so late, and then getting that snow right at Christmas time. But one of the things that we've always done here, and a lot of areas, particularly out west, do this, is they have a combined, early season, they have a combined snowmaking and grooming team. So a lot of the groomers are making snow until the time the snowmaking's done, and when snowmaking's done, they go over to grooming. If it gets cold early, that works swimmingly well. By the time you're starting to wrap up snowmaking, the groomers are moving. If you get a year like last year, or you get a lot of early natural snow, it doesn't work so well. So one of the things we did last year, the reason that Hughes sat that way is because we were compromised on the grooming side of things, because we had many of them still making snow. We sent the groomers we had to the panel to open that up for Christmas. We figured that acreage was a whole lot more important than Hughes, but we took a lot of complaints, at least I did, riding the gondola every day, about why Hughes looked the way it did. That's a big move for us. And the other thing we did as part of that is we normally bring our snowmaking crew in around mid-October. We brought them in October 3rd this year because we wanted to be ready to go. Because one of the things as far as capacity, which we're able to do this year, get open as early as we can and go as long as we can. So the reason I'm bringing all those up examples are because we went through the business planning process, and this is how we're using those three kind of key OKRs for the company, is we made about just shy of $500,000 investment in the sort of slope teams, if you will, to facilitate this. So we split grooming and snowmaking. There still are some groomers that are making snow, but we're bringing in additional groomers early so that we can be ready to go. We brought snowmakers in early. We've got designs to move a little bit farther into the cirque. For those that know that area, the jelly roll. So with some luck on our side, we'll be taking some runs in there come spring. So we expanded some of the troll as well. So the point of all that is we use this process actually to reallocate resources to sort of build capacity for ourselves to continue to expand and grow in all three of those areas. So on the one focused on employees, I mentioned the wages. That's about a $9.5 million investment that we made in wages this year. We also invested another $350,000 in additional housing leases for this winter. We had to sign up 2 of them actually all summer long, even though we didn't need them because we wanted them for the winter. And then I talked to you about a bunch of the arrival stuff that we made. So the point is, we decided those were 3 big priorities for the resort, and then we allocated resources to those appropriately versus kind of scattering about. So what we're trying to do, along with what Jared and Altera is doing, is being more disciplined about what the key priorities are and making sure we're putting both our capital and our operating resources against those. One other major / minor change, I think, from an operational standpoint, some of you may know this, but we changed around Dark Territory Park. So one of the things for those that skied or rode earlier in the season, when we opened up to Sunspot, y'all remember how that traffic flow went? Anybody stand on the upper Cramner Cut for more than 2 minutes? It was pretty challenging because to try to get open to Sunspot, we've obviously over the last couple of years moved away from Cramner because of its width and time it takes to get open. So we come down March Air, draw everybody sort of through down on the summer road there. But it created a real jam up. So part of all of this stuff to make snowmaking more efficient, and this is to get FIPS open earlier, so that it gives people a route off of that so that they don't have to go all the way across underneath it. I'm trying. To get down, back to explore and things like that. So again, another use of the system to try to figure out, okay, what's the best way? So DT is going to slide over basically to where the skills park was in the past. Frees up FIPS quite a bit. It's much more efficient from a snowmaking standpoint because we don't have a big side hill there. So we'll be able to make snow there more efficiently. And then we're going to move the skills park up onto FIPS, which gives us more room actually for the general public because that doesn't take up quite the width that the big features do of DT. So another example of how we're using the system to change up some of our operations. I mentioned the new terrain on the Cirque side. We're also opening a couple new chutes in the chutes up at the Jane, so that'll be open as well. So we're continuing to try to expand from a a terrain standpoint to kind of build capacity, again, back to that third OKR about terrain, capacity, length of season, all that stuff. And then the final big operational change this year, hopefully it won't be sort of a noticeable change, on the back of the house side of things, but as of August 1st, we partnered up with Levy Restaurants to oversee our food and beverage operation. So they, for those that don't know them, they specialize, they're actually at two of our resorts already, Mammoth and Big Bear in California. But they specialize in big venues, sports and entertainment. So arenas, sporting events. I was just talking to somebody yesterday, the F1 race, which was down in Austin last week. They did the food for that, Kentucky Derby. So they do big venues and very culinary driven operation. So we're excited to have them. One of the things that's been on our radar screen, from a sort of high level standpoint, is to really elevate our food and beverage experience, and bringing in a team that sort of does this at volume, which is hard to do. You bring in some people that are restaurateurs or whatever, and they think they can come in and run West Portal or Sunspot or probably most importantly Lunch Rock, and then they just get overwhelmed because they don't know what to do if 17,000 people show up for a day. This outfit obviously knows how to do that, because I think someone told me from Levy at the F1 they had 250,000 people. So if they can do that, they ought to be able to handle us. So we're excited about that. We're still learning with them. So they've been officially with us since August 1st, but they actually joined us back in February as a consulting team and did a lot of stuff in March, bringing people up. We brought people up on the train. They really kind of bailed us out in March because we were in dire straits from a staffing standpoint. So we're excited about that. Shouldn't change anything as far as we go. Employee discounts, all that stuff, still the same. The final thing I would say on that too, though, my partner on the Levy side, Scott Sweeney, and I agreed on this in the first 10 minutes we met each other, is we are Winter Park Food and Beverage. So this is not Levy. It's not us and them. They are us. 90-some-odd% of the food and beverage team is the same team you've seen before. There's a new food and beverage director. His name's Jacob. John is still with us for the interim period. Daisy's staying on. The vast majority of the people that you deal with are going to be the same people that we've had before. We do have a new executive chef, senior executive chef, Joshua, and then some support from Alexa, who's their HR director, will be on site as well. So we do have some new faces from sort of a management standpoint that are on site, but when it comes to the actual staff out in the business, most of them will be recognizable to you all. So we're excited about that. Early indications have been good. We moved our net promoter score actually on food and beverage this summer, so we're excited to see that, and hopefully they can bring some horsepower on the staffing side, because that's obviously been one of our biggest challenges in the last couple of years from a food and beverage standpoint. Any questions operationally?
Are they involved in all the restaurants like Docks and Sunspot, everything too?
100%.
Okay.
The only thing that they're not doing is Waffle Cabinet. It's already third party. Mm-hmm. But anything that we ran before is now under their
That's really good to hear.
Oversight. So we're definitely excited about that. Like I said, it's been a little bit bumpy as we got going, but it was a big change for all of us and them to a certain extent too, because they're. We're the third resort to be with them, so the resort business is a little bit different than the stadium venue business, because most of those are in urban centers, and it's a little bit easier from a staffing standpoint and a logistical standpoint. But it's a big company, and like I said, they bring a lot of horsepower to the table, so I'm pretty excited to join that. As we think about this coming winter, again, on our three big targets, EES, we hope to grow a point again, so up to 81. Net promoter, we actually hope to go about 3.5 points, get to 60, and then grow from there. And then from a visit standpoint, we're targeting to be in the upper 1.1 million visits, gaining on 1.2 million visits from an overall standpoint. One of the things that will be hopefully helpful, but it'll also create some challenges. Icon Pass sales are very strong. We've exceeded, at least through the October deadline, the budget that we had for it, which was substantially higher than a couple of years ago. So those continue to go. And Colorado continues to be, sort of outpacing in aggregate terms, not in percentage terms, most of the rest of the state. So we believe anyway, seen a bit of a conversion over the last year or so, from Epic to Icon, given some of the challenges that our Forensic Vale have gone through. So it's going to be, there's a lot of people with passes out there. Our pass, the Winter Park pass is actually down about 15% in units right now, but we believe a large share of those are actually just moving over to the Icon base. The prices are pretty close, and if you've got a little bit extra cash, why not get the base? You go to Steamboat, you go other places versus just the Winter Park pass. It's still strong for us, but it is starting to decline a little bit. And again, I think most people are kind of moving over to the Icon. Lodging bookings are pretty strong. We were ahead in all months. We slipped a little bit in December, a little bit in November. This will probably help some of that. January, February, March are strong. April's too far out to worry about right now. But we hope that we'll continue to see good bookings. Back in early August, we were actually quite concerned given the headwinds that are out there in the world around us. Inflation, no one knows whether we're going to be in a recession, war in Ukraine, you name it. Things were looking a little bit concerning, and then sort of latter August and into September, bookings started really taking off, and super excited kind of where we sit today. One of the challenges on the December side, for those that watch calendars, school breaks changed a bit, so it's the early week before the Christmas holiday, which is actually the one that's lagging. Most all resorts are seeing that as well. It's just a change in the school holidays. Hopefully we'll pick some of that up in the back 2 weeks. I think that's about what I got. Questions?
Hey, let's take some questions for Sky, and I've got some on the
Okay.
computer here that I can ask. People at home probably can't hear your questions, so
I'll try to just remind you.
Just summarize it.
Yeah.
Can you clarify what those Christmas dates are for the schools, for those of us who are totally unversed in school?
I don't have actually. I don't actually have the calendar in my head. Sorry. The question was.
The week before than the week after Christmas?
So there's some schools. So the question was clarifying the school breaks. So there's some school districts that tend to start a little bit earlier, a little bit before Christmas. Just the way Christmas falls this year, they've kind of moved back. So that week doesn't have as many school breaks in it that it had in the past.
Okay.
Which usually translates into a little stronger first week of January.
That's right. That's our hope, is that it just moved a week back.
Sky, you said.
For the new employee housing, is that for employee housing as well as Winter Park, or is it workforce for the town?
So the question is, the new housing that I talked about, is that for Winter Park only, or workforce for the town and the community? Mostly the prior, but one of the things that we did, we had a fairly significant negotiation with a couple different groups, WPRA, the town, and whatever, because that's where it was headed. But we pushed back pretty strongly and said, we need to be able to make that decision. It shouldn't be sort of written that it's for employees only. And the rationale for that was primarily, I'll use bus drivers for Lyft as an example. If housing would help get the Lyft bus system fully staffed, that's a benefit to the resort. So we control all the beds. We can determine where they go. So it's not, if your second part was sort of open workforce housing for anybody, the answer to that is no. They have to come through us, but we broadened our ability to be able to put whoever we thought we wanted in there. CDOT plow driver be another one. If you can't get over the pass, you can't come here, that might be important to us. So we wanted the flexibility for non-Winter Park employees that we deem are important to our business to be able to offer up housing. But it's primarily for Winter Park employees.
And then, so how will non?
So they'll still come through us. One of the things that we just talked about a week or so ago is we're going to probably change our structure in housing and kind of set it up like its own business unit, like lodging. So we haven't quite got there yet, but there'll probably be some kind of application process, or, we'll reserve some, 10 bedrooms, for non-employees or something like that. But we're also trying to work with the community too to just gauge the need. Right? I think it's mostly on the bus driver side, actually. And some of that's actually just for not necessarily full-time, but nights at a time, people coming up from the Front Range to work for the weekend type thing. But we're going to work through that whole process. And then, like I said, we're also going to maintain, several hundred beds that we have today in the community as well. So we could always put some people there too.
You mentioned a new chute or two. Were those the chutes up in the circuit you were talking about, or is there like new chutes where the actual chutes are?
New chutes where so the question is, are the chutes I was talking about, the new chutes where the chutes are? If I'm standing looking down there to the right.
Okay, so on the other side of Holden Hall.
Yes. What'd you say?
So the better not is open?
I think that's the name of it, yeah.
Better not, you should, better not do it.
Better not and you shouldn't. And I won't. I'll go stand and look over. But yes, it's in that area. Online ones?
There is one question over here.
Yeah, just a quick question on, do we do anything to attract international visitors that might stay here for a week or so? Is there any specific targeting to those?
So the question is, do anything specific for international visitors? There's a group within Altera that does most of the international stuff, and actually the person that kind of oversees Colorado comes from Steamboat. She's been doing it a long time. So she represents us when she goes to Australia or UK or other places. So the short answer is yes. We don't deploy a lot of resources ourselves. We take advantage of two different things. Altera and Colorado Ski Country also goes out and promotes in some of those destinations. So yes, it's on our radar screen, but we think at least for our dollars, staying focused on not only the Front Range, but Texas and some of our major markets that do come here for extended period is a better use of our dollars. And then we just leverage our other capabilities through Altera and Colorado Ski Country to do some of the international marketing. We're just still not in that as much of a draw set, but we're gaining, particularly in the UK.
The climate change, our snow, as far as I can
Totally.
tell, looks like it's going to keep going pretty well.
We'll be one of the better situated.
Exactly. You're going to have everybody from Austria and the UK trying to get over here and do some good skiing.
And it's part of the continued icon strategy. We've added a couple partners overseas this year in addition to Canada. So the icon pass, I just lost track how many we have. I think we might be over 50 or somewhere around there. Yeah, so there's several. We've had Japan for a while. We've had several down in New Zealand and Australia. We're starting to get some in Central Europe as well. So that helps bring our awareness up. And I would tell you too that the other thing is, whether it's ski magazine rankings, whether it's being voted #1 by USA Today, that all helps too. We're out in the national awareness set much better than we used to be 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Just a quick question on the additional acreage. What's the total now?
There's a big debate on that. Doug, who does our acreage, says, well, that was already included anyways because we could have skied there.
Yeah.
There's some of us that are like, I don't think so. So we're still trying to debate on that. We're still, I think, posted on the web at 3,081. But as we continue to look into the Vasquez area, because I believe there's some areas within that Jelly Roll itself might have been included. Some of the trees below that may or may not be. So we're trying to continue to debate that exact number. Yeah, how do we actually count this?
Yeah, on the topic of access, is there any plan to increase the frequency of the shuttle bus from Gemini to Gargoyle? I know, but it's not the most frequent.
It's very
It's not really.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know.
I don't think there are plans to increase it. One of the issues with the Willie cap, the reason it's infrequent is because of the clinic behind. So when there's an ambulance there or whatever, it's impossible to pass through. So that unfortunately is something that we have to deal with, but it just makes laps as much as it can, but it can't.
Welcome to the Apply to Drive the Willie Cap.
Okay, we got a couple of questions online. Some of them have already been asked, so you guys are on the same page. Any plans to adjust the loading seat height on the Olympia? For those of us who, I guess, work with people with shorter legs.
Too high or too low?
It's too high.
We're getting back at
Short answer is Not that I know of, but that's something we can do with snow. And I'll talk to Batch and team on that.
Yeah, we will work with our lift department on those types of things to try to maintain stuff as best we can. So that might be something we can accomplish before we get to like re-engineering things.
Yeah, I mean, the actual platform on the ground hasn't changed, but we can absolutely change the differentials.
So we also bought new bibs for the kids that have handles on them.
It might be the easiest.
You can ask for assistance from the lifties and they can help.
Can we get those for adults?
Yeah. You got to promise.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Tony, if you're gonna add anything, come in front of the
Oh,
camera.
sorry.
Just because for those of you guys online, the last question was about adjusting the seat height on the Olympia. And then Tony added in that we have bibs with handles this year, so it should be easier to help with loading.
One question in the back.
Adjacent to the bibs with handles, are we going to coach the lift operators as to how to help load kids onto the lift? Yes. You see it so many other resorts who do it really well.
With every child. Be in the lesson or not.
We didn't invite Batch to this meeting, but again, that's a piece of feedback that we will definitely get their way, and our goal is to work as closely as we can with them, so the guest experience is as high as it can be.
I'll talk to them.
Yeah, and we've heard that for sure before, and we've definitely passed that message along, so we'll just continue to work with them on that. A couple of these are things I think we can answer. Somebody asked, is there any way we can set rooms aside for part-timers, employee housing rooms for part-timers who are only there on the weekends? Probably not. Probably won't ever get to a place where we have enough housing that there's such a surplus that we can afford to have rooms that are empty on slow times. We prioritize our first-year full-timers right now. And as we get more housing available to us, as the housing in the community improves, we may open that up to other types of workers within our department. And that's a decision that we make. That's not a decision that housing makes for us. So we'll continue to evaluate that every year.
But certainly with going up to 500 or 600 beds to your point,
We might have the opportunity.
It gives us more flexibility on some of those things that we haven't been able to do in the past.
Yes. That looks like it. Any other questions from the room? Any other questions online? Get them in now. One way over there.
Yeah, just wondering, has there been any thought on the partner resorts? Maybe it's 50% discount based on needs. Maybe just 50%. Is there any thought about any of that? The reason I'm asking is the variable cost of each showing the same. It's a huge benefit to the needs and it's helped get it.
So the question is, if I understand it, is 50% off for the Icon partner resorts? Yeah, it's probably a little bit less of any variable cost to that resort. And the way our partner agreements are structured, we pay for every Icon visit that goes. So it's actually a cost to Alterra for every employee that goes. So that's one of the reasons it's not free.
One more question online. Can employees get a discount on the ski train?
Good question.
Guys got some stuff to go home and look into.
So for this year, the answer to that is no, and I'll tell you why. We had a conversation with Amtrak 2 weeks ago-ish. They have run into some significant issues from an equipment standpoint. If you all remember, they had some tragic accidents on 2 of their different routes last year, one in the Midwest and one up in Montana. And the cars that were involved in that those accidents are the exact cars, the Superliner cars that we use. And given some of the supply chain, labor issues, whatever, there's obviously only enough X number of people that can work on those cars. So they are not able to deliver us a full train this year. So our capacity in the past has been 411 seats. This year it's going to be 274 seats, or 275. So we're down fairly substantially in capacity. So for this year, the answer to that is no. The other thing that we have to just be cognizant of when we think about discounts for employees or anything is the way our deal is structured with Amtrak, they cannot lose any money. So it's very much like a minimum airline seat guarantee. We have to guarantee the cost of Amtrak for the year. So everything that we discount just becomes a cost to us if we don't hit sort of that break-even standpoint. Where we've been in the last 6 years or so that we've been with Amtrak, we're basically break-even. Some years we lose a little bit of money, some years we make a little bit of money, but in general, it's a break-even. We don't ever anticipate it making a lot of money just because of the overall capacity. So I would say it's probably something we are looking at it. We actually looked at this year, but because of their car capacity issue, we weren't able to do that. We've actually looked at working with them to just take a car that's for employees. If we do that and can add that to the train, that's a different story, because then we're just paying for the cost of the car, and we'd only need to collect X amount of dollars to kind of cover the cost of the car versus the overall cost of the operation for a winter cycle. So it's on our radar screen. We're looking at it a little bit differently than discounted tickets. It was more to see if we could get an employee car hooked onto the train, which they are willing to do and capable to do, but they don't have the car capacity this year to do that. But I do think that's something in the future that we will continue to push forward on.
So United partnered with Breckenridge, and you can buy an airline ticket, since you brought up airline tickets and seats, thought I'd ask. Where you can buy an airline ticket and you can include a trip to Breckenridge on a bus straight to the resort. Can we do something like that with buses? With a different airline maybe?
Yeah, we sure can. We have a lot of connections to the, we don't do anything specifically with the airlines right now. But you know, Steamboat does a lot with the airlines. Mammoth does a fair amount with the airlines. So we have connections through the airlines. But we just, at this point, not sure that that's the best use of because that costs money. I'm sure they paid something to do that, because airlines have a minimum seat guarantee as well, generally, to do some of that stuff. And then the other thing too is, you know, from buses, we looked at the bus stang and the snow stang and all those things, you know, to service here. But at the end of the day, particularly given our visitation patterns heavily on the weekends, I don't see how those buses are going to get here any faster than a car, because they're going to be sitting in traffic. So, you know, train and carpooling, and there's some other things that we're trying to look at to try to facilitate getting people here. But we keep our eye on that because our proximity to DIA is important, and you know, goes back to the international travel comment as well. Right now, we think, you know, we fare pretty well without necessarily doing anything because we support the train. But we keep all those options open.
Just to kind of repeat what Sarah put in the chat for anyone online who's not reading the chat, for anyone in the room, the train is not a good way to get here for work for us. Unfortunately, the time that it arrives isn't going to allow you to get to your work assignment. So just keep that in mind. Good for your day off.
Yes, an 8:45 to 9 a.m. arrival.
Good point, James. One more back there.
So just below the old NASCAR shack. So the question is, DT moved to the skills park. Just below the old NASCAR shack, we had that kind of that. So DT's going there, and that skills park is going up on the skiers right at the tips. Yeah, just switching. Anything else for me?
So what is
I'm going to give Tom a few minutes because.
So how is that that area from the NASCAR shack down or the race shack?
Hey guys, we're trying to have one person ask a question.
Thank you.
How is that area going to be utilized then if we're taking that park away? Is it just for general traffic or?
What part?
I'm sorry, from the race shack down that we had the frame.
So the question is, how's the area where DT is going? It's going to be DT, but it's also going to be open to the general public. No passes required this year.
All right, that's all we got for Sky. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Actually, I don't have anything to add right now. We'll bring the marketing team up so we can keep on schedule. I'm going to stay here for the rest of the morning too, so if things come up later that either you didn't want to ask Sky or new questions come up, I'll just be around for the rest of the morning.
Thanks,
and over to Liz and Nicole.
Yeah, say hi to your marketing team.
Hi, and right spot?
You stay wherever you want.
Oh, wow.
There we go.
We've got, yeah.
Well, first off, thanks for letting us come in today. Thanks for the invite, Jacob. We're really excited to be here. I'll
Can you
just
introduce yourself?
I was just about to introduce our team. Yes. So I'm Liz Augustin. I'm the VP of Marketing. I'm Nicole Knox, the Director of Marketing. And we have our new marketing manager back here, first week, and this is Steven Coca. So first ever time we've had a dedicated marketing manager to specifically support all of our BUs. So that's your guy. But one weekend we won't make him talk just yet. Business units, I'm sorry. Business units, so ski and ride school, food and beverage, rental retail, et cetera, et cetera. So first I also just want to thank all of you. You're fantastic partners with so many things that we do, whether that's helping us in our ads and getting in video content, creating video content like How to Ski Moguls, special assignments like Alan being Santa for us, helping us with events, helping us with journalists. Just thank you. That we couldn't do a lot of things we do without that, so we really appreciate it. I'm just going to speak quickly high level of a couple of the high level campaign things we're doing this year, and then Nicole's going to get into some of the details of ski and ride school initiatives with Backline. So this year, one of the new things we're doing is really trying to expand into more audiences. We know the ski industry has been pretty flat for about 20 years. And a lot of times we, as the ski industry marketers, focus on sort of the more unattainable, unapproachable aspects, kind of big ski lines and all that sort of stuff, which we love, but can make it a bit intimidating. So our campaign this year is really about welcoming all audiences and getting more new people into the sport. So you'll hear more about this in the video that Sky mentioned, the REO video. Carl Fry will take you through some of the campaign and the videos, but one thing that I'm really excited to highlight is that we have one of the TV spots actually focusing on the learning to ski experience and featuring our ski and ride school. So excited for you all to see that. I think it's something that the industry really hasn't done, is really celebrate that new to skiing experience and celebrate, you know, there's sometimes when you fall, but it's still fun and it's worth it in the end. So I'm really excited for all of you to see that. There's about 5 different spots. We really varied them to different audiences. So in our media plan, so where we buy advertising, we target different audiences. So again, typically in the past, that's been a little bit more focused on people that we know are skiers. We're excited to be expanding our audiences this year to people that may not be specifically skiers, but might have interest in the outdoors and the mountains. So we're going to show some of those spots to them, get some more interest. We tested into that a little bit last year and saw a lot of success with it. The other high level piece that I just want to target, speaking of sort of those new audiences and expanding, this goes along not only with wanting to bring more people into the sport, into our resort, but also some of our DEIB initiatives, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So last year we started looking at what markets are out there that are maybe a little bit different than what most of our skiers look like. The Hispanic markets are growing massively. They're also the second largest in outdoor participation. Some ski resorts that have international came up earlier. Some ski resorts really go to those audiences internationally, so going after Mexico City, like Vail does, some South America. We felt like our bigger opportunity and actually a unique place that we could play is really the domestic market. So right now focused on Colorado, Texas, some of our other markets, but where are those Hispanic audiences? With the help of a research agency, we went out and said exactly who within that audience should we be targeting. We really focused on 2nd and 3rd generation Hispanic audiences in those markets who are bilingual. Right now, we don't really have the infrastructure on site, whether that's signage, employees, our website, to go fully Spanish language. So the bilingual was really a sweet spot. We tested into it last spring with an advertising campaign where we partially translated our ad spots and used our sort of mission, our tagline of Venture Out, translated that to Venture Fuera. And we actually saw incredible success with this. So engagement rates were about 3 times what we saw with our typical ad campaign. We had awesome engagement from that audience, just being really excited that we were speaking to them in a language that really resonated. And just with the initial campaign, which I think only ran for 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks maybe, we saw a little over $400,000 in attributed revenue online. So that was really exciting. So we're expanding that this year. More to come on that, but that was kind of what I wanted to highlight, just in addition to our sort of what's become our standard marketing, going after audiences, trying to get those vacation visitors here, and then also talking with our pass holders in the front range. We're really trying to expand into new audiences, bring new people into the sport, make it more approachable, make it more inclusive, and really live up to our mission of inspire and welcome everyone to venture out. Nicole, I'll hand it over to you for some of the more specific stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. And thank you again for having us here today. So some of the other initiatives that we've done to continue to build Ski and Ride School. First and foremost, improvements to our e-commerce experience. You may have noticed at the end of last spring, we rolled out a new e-commerce booking experience that is directly on our website rather than kicking people over to Intopia for that experience. We've really seen that help with bookings, increasing bookings, making it easier for our guests to buy online right there versus having to call our call center. And in addition to that, this season, we launched our Ski and Ride School products by October 1st. In addition to that, we also launched Ski and Ride School products with our Insiders package on June 1st. So all of those combined, we've seen a 385% increase in revenue compared to same time last year just for Ski and Ride School. So really excited to see that coming into this season and looking forward as we get really into the winter season. In addition to that, we're also really focused on maximizing our pre-arrival experience. So once we know a guest has booked lodging, lift tickets with us, they've chosen Winter Park, they're coming here, we want to promote Ski and Ride School to them as much as possible. So that is through our pre-arrival email communication, confirmation emails, an automated 14-day out email, making sure that they've got their lessons booked for their trip. In addition to that, our homepage. So you may go to our homepage and see the view that everybody else does, but through some of the technology that we've gotten with Altera, Adobe Target, we're able to customize that homepage based on who we know you are and what you've already purchased with us. So some of our guests are seeing a different view than you are when you go to winterparkresort.com. So if somebody has purchased lodging with us, lift tickets, even rentals, but they haven't purchased their Ski and Ride School, you'll see that in those top 4 promo blocks on our homepage, prompting them to make sure they get their lessons for their trip. We'll also be looking at some other urgency type messaging, looking at the holiday season and spring break for that pre-arrival audience, letting them know that space is limited and they are going to want to book as far in advance as possible. In addition to those customized homepages, we also have a pass holder view. So one initiative we've been working on with Jacob and Tony, thank you guys so much for your partnership on this. We know that a large majority of our visits are from pass holders, but we really struggle to get those more intermediate and advanced pass holders to take lessons with us because they're like, I know how to ski, I've got this. But I'm sure as all you know, everyone can really benefit from a lesson, improving their form, advancing their skills, and getting into some of that more advanced terrain that maybe right now they're not super comfortable taking on. So through that Adobe Target technology, we do have a pass holder view just for them where we'll be leaning into lessons a little bit more. One of the focus products we're looking at is clinics, since those are back this season. We've seen a lot of success with our trestle riders over the summer, taking those more specialized skill clinics. We want to translate that over to our winter guests as well and really focus on promoting that product to our pass holder audience through the website as well as our email marketing, app push notifications, and all the different channels where we can talk just to our pass holders. In addition to that, we're looking to try and move pass holders into more intermediate and advanced lessons as a whole. We'll be working on, with all of you this season, some more tips and tricks content. We've seen some of that perform really well for us in the past, like when we've given how to ski mogul tips. That seems to resonate. People understand that there is a need for them to learn. So we really want to tie that back to our Ski and Ride School and, hey, here's a little tip to get you started. But if you take a lesson with one of our instructors, they'll really help you get going on this skill. So expect to see more of that tips and tricks content this season on our social media platforms, as well as cross-promoting those across our email and blog channels as well. And then the last one I just want to touch on is our Learn to Ski deal that we have in early season. We've run this for a couple of seasons now. We know that beginners is kind of the easiest entry point into Ski and Ride School. So we are planning a retargeting campaign with those Learn to Ski guests this season. So if they're located in Colorado, they participated in that Learn to Ski program, we want to retarget them later on throughout the season, get them to come back, take more lessons, and hopefully become both a Ski and Ride School guest for life, as well as a Winter Park loyal guest too. So those are some of the initiatives at a high level we're working on for your team this season, but would love to open it up for any questions you may have. Yes?
With, you said targeting more advanced skiers and even on the beginner skiers, do you have any kind of guarantee associated with our lesson product?
Like guarantee of if you don't get the kind of value you're looking at?
Right, you can take another one or whatever the options.
Tony, I believe
Like,
we
is
do,
it
but I'll
published?
let you.
There's nothing published that says like, money back guarantee, anything like that. We don't let our guests go away unhappy generally.
Right.
So, there's nothing specific that's marketed that way, but we do look after all of our guests for sure.
Well, I get that, but it's usually,
We've messaged it. So the question was, do we offer any sort of a guarantee for our guests who take
Right.
lessons? Just to repeat it, sorry, Jacob. I think what we've focused the messaging on in partnership with Tony is really guest-centric teaching and talking about how we really make it about the guests,
Right.
and it's about their experience. Thus far, it hasn't really been something we've wanted to publish, that we do any sort of a guarantee, but it's certainly something we could look at in the future.
okay.
If Tony wants to.
The guests I'm concerned about are the ones that don't say anything during this. So,
Yeah, I mean,
It's
and we'll
like,
talk
what is
about
the
it later in
traffic?
our presentation, but we do a pretty extensive surveying of the guests to make sure that they get what they want. And so we'll talk about that later.
Yes.
So with the expansion of eventually 300 some odd new beds over the next season or two, plus our expansion of our target market reach, are we also expanding our reach into possible employees into bilingual marketing research as well for our ski school and other departments as well?
Right, so the question was, with the additional beds in employee housing and expanding into bilingual audiences, are we also looking to expand our employee pool? I think that's a question for Tony. I'm not sure I can answer that.
I mean, we're always looking to expand our employee pool. If any of you guys know anybody that wants to work here, have them apply. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's any, are you asking specifically if there's marketing targeting?
Marketing also trying to target bilingual future employees as well, not just. Doing it through our department.
It's a great point. I think our marketing, what we hope is when we're reaching people and with a lot of the brand awareness, I know Sky mentioned our brand awareness, we've increased our top line brand awareness scores by 8% in the last couple of years, which is the most significant and consistent growth of any of the competitive set. We hope that does expand and reach potential employees as well. Specifically, our department doesn't do campaigns specifically for employment. That's actually run generally through Alterra because they run it across resorts. So I'm not sure if they're expanding that way right now, but it's certainly something to look at.
And I would say Chip is a great example of this. I'll just bring this up. But when we expand our reach, we get a lot of employees who come to visit us. Chip was in ski school when I was an instructor, right? So now he's a supervisor with us. So I think that's going to help us too. Just expanding our reach in general is going to help us to attract bilingual employees if we're successful.
Alan?
Request, can we continue the Ski Caddy series?
For those on the phone, the request was to continue the Ski Caddy series. You may have seen him featured in our opening day announcement video. So yes, we plan to continue to move that forward.
So, well, actually, just for a moment, I also want to give a round of applause to everyone else who has been in our various videos, because I know there are other people in here. Who else?
Hey, raise your hand if you've ever
Content?
been in a marketing video.
I know
Thank you all.
Have we ever thought of marketing an adult lesson with our kids multi-week? And the reason I say that is so often we have kids who are doing so well and mom says, oh, I can't keep up with them anymore.
So I'd say this is more of a Tony question, and we haven't done anything with that yet because our multi-weeks are so popular that it's very challenging for us to staff those right now. So we have expanded some clinics. So if you have parents that are looking for stuff, so like, for example, on President's and MLK weekend, we'll be doing some advanced level clinics. So if they wanted to join those and put their kiddos in school for the day, that would be a possibility. But right now, we don't have the staff to make that happen.
And I can say too, from a marketing perspective, we send out some dedicated emails to promote our multi-weeks, especially to parents. And we always include cross promotion in there as well for some of the clinics and adult lessons.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah. So, as an adult, like I'm kind of an adult. And let's say I want to learn how to ski.
I will never buy that, what is it, $1,000 for a private lesson now? I'll never buy that unless somebody talks me into buying that $169 one. Like the drug dealer, the first one's free.
Yeah.
That lesson is so important, but we don't have any incentive to sell it. But we have lots of incentive to sell that $1,000 thing. And some of us are great at it, I'm not. But I could sell the hell out of that $169 deal, and I could have this place packed.
Yeah, so I think that's.
Personally, in my personal life, I could do that.
I
But
think,
there's no incentive for me to do it.
yeah, I think that's another Tony question. So, the reason we don't do that is similar to the parents. We don't have the capacity to push those lessons all day, every day. We're certainly looking into finding ways that we could do something like that. Tom and I have had discussions for years about how we could get more people through lessons quickly, right, and not have to eat as much staff. So housing is going to help us with that. We can get more staff that way, but also, looking into things like terrain-based learning and things like that.
But
So
what
that
was
we
during
can.
the week?
What's that?
What
During the
was
week,
it?
we don't have capacity. We were sold out like 140 days last year
So,
in some form or fashion.
So not to cut you off, but we are going to be covering this stuff a little bit later as well. And if we could have marketing specific questions, that'd be great.
Yeah, are we doing anything to help the clients understand what the value of lessons is, why it's really important they do it? I have so many students that say, oh, I only signed up with my friend did, but I didn't realize I'd make such an improvement, or that it was such a good thing to do, I'll do it again. And it just doesn't seem like we're selling the value and helping them understand it.
So I can take that one. The question was, what are we doing to really sell and help our guests understand what the value of a lesson is? That's kind of what we're trying to get at with the tips and tricks content somewhat this season. The other piece that we'll be working on this season, but we'll be rolling out more so next season, is we really want to do some research into our guests of why do they take a lesson, why don't they take a lesson, what value have they found in it, and then we're working with our creative agency Bravo Echo on coming up with some really strong messaging. So as Liz mentioned, we've tested into talking about our guest-centered teaching style and that it's really about the guest and what their goals are. We've seen that work and help differentiate us to some degree, but we really haven't found what's that magic bullet that is succinct and helps people really understand this is the value I'm going to get from a lesson and I need to take one. So we're testing some things this winter, but then we're also working on some longer term strategies to implement next winter too.
Great. All right, we're just going to do one last question in the back, and then we'll move on.
My question is, you were talking about marketing towards multilingual people. Have you ever thought about the amount of Hispanics that are local in Granada that you're speaking for that also knows French?
Yeah, I think, so the question was, we are talking about marketing to bilingual audiences. Have we considered the local populations of Hispanic audiences? We've certainly talked about it, and I think we've discussed various programs. I would say that's more at a resort level. As far as local marketing, we don't tend to spend as much money there because our brand awareness is pretty high here, and we are the sort of local game in town. So I think there's opportunities to get into those audiences. Right now, we're a little bit more focused on Colorado Front Range, but there's certainly opportunities and programs, I think, to connect with those audiences.
I might just add a little bit more to that too. First of all, thank you all for, how many of you helped coach either Denver Parks and Rec or a Share Winter program last year? So first of all, thank you so much. As part of our DE&I efforts, we're trying to get into a bunch of markets. There was one of the Share Winter programs last year, was a Grand County-based one that we worked with our local rec district. We didn't do as good of a job getting the outreach into some other communities. It ended up being, in many cases, kids that couldn't, more majority kids that just needed a program. And so we're going to try to get that out there in a little bit more bilingual marketing effort and whatnot through the Share Winter program. So that's one way that we are bringing in those communities. So, and then I have one final question for marketing, which is really a plant. It's related to. But as Sky mentioned, really improving the arrival experience. And he talked, about parking and then also fulfillment and not having to go to multiple lines. One of the other things that we see that has been really helpful for guests is if they're pre-booked, we mail their stuff. They can come right, if they don't need rentals, they can go right to their lesson place. So the more people we can get pre-booked, not only do we have the money in the bank and we have that security, but it's also a more seamless experience for them. So Nicole mentioned that we're up 300,000 or 300% in our pre-bookings. I'm sure you guys are going to talk about where we are with some of the multi-week programs, and so we've done a great job already, and a lot of that's the great effort and partnership between the two of us on the online purchase experience, and we've streamlined some of that, not only the cart experience, but we streamlined some of the products so that it's easier for someone to plan a whole vacation and add their ski school and not have to have ski school with rentals one day and then skiing with my family and rentals another day. So we've really done a good job to put those together. And so one of our OKRs, as Sky mentioned, is to increase the percentage of our revenue that is pre-booked, and pre-booked specifically through an online channel rather than through a call center, because it's usually more efficient. And we are in what place year to date for pre-book?
Number one.
Across all Altera, as a percentage of revenue, we're leading Altera in getting people to use the online channels. So it's compliments to you guys and a great partnership here. So thanks.
Yeah, that is exciting. I think the other plug I was supposed to make as well, that Sky didn't, I might have missed it, but if you haven't downloaded and used the app, our app is pretty great, the Winter Park app, local one. You can track your days and you can try to beat Sky, how many days he has on the mountain.
McCurdy did, by the way.
I'll also try to beat Chris McCurdy.
Yes.
He's in competition all year.
But if you tried at the beginning of last year, it was when we first launched it, we're continually making improvements and partnering with Altera in that. So there are additional improvements. It's a great tool for our guests as well. There's now a grooming layer on it, so you can see what's groomed on there, track your days. We'll also have parking this year, so it'll show you which parking lots are full or open. So I just encourage you to use that as well.
You can earn badges too. That's a new feature. So I know one request we've gotten from various departments, just want to highlight, is the ability to purchase through the app. We do link out to the website, but that is something that the Altera team's looking at in future iterations. We don't have it quite yet, but there are some really new exciting features for the app. So definitely download it, use it, tell your guests all about it. Really help streamline that guest experience too.
Thanks again for the time, and I know there are other questions maybe, so feel free to reach out to us, shoot us an email or a note, or come find us up on the 3rd floor. We're happy to answer them or talk about marketing stuff. Thank you.
Sweet. You guys doing all right? Can we go for another 15, 20 minutes before we break?
If you need to use the restroom, you can go whenever. It's not.
Feel free to get up when you need to go.
You're gonna hold it.
Yeah.
We're not gonna hold it.
Yeah.
We don't want anybody getting it.
It's on the floor, so it's probably somebody.
Also, is anybody missing their wallet, by the way?
Turn the projector
Yeah, your what's in it?
It is on the film. It wasn't. Oh, shit.
You want to turn this into presenter? Start from the beginning.
Oh, that's
Okay, you need to do it through this. See this? So you have to actually share, and then is that it?
Yep.
Because it just serves the program,
Yep.
and you can still be here. So.
More or less sounds good. All right, guys, I promise we have a break coming up. If you guys could all get back to your seats, I'd really appreciate it.
You gotta be louder and meaner.
Go for it.
Hey, everybody sit down!
Thanks, Trent.
Yeah, buddy.
Awesome. All right. I know there's some people still coming back from the bathroom, but we'll go ahead and keep it moving. We don't want to be here too long. You're DJing just right from there? Sweet. People at home, just ask your questions. Sarah's monitoring a little bit. She'll throw them at us or answer them if she can as we go. So Tony and I are going to do a little bit of a review preview. We might jump around a little bit because I think it's nice to look at something from last year compared to what we're doing this year, or maybe even go a little further back. And then we'll get into each individual business unit, each BU, and have the managers from that business unit talk a little bit more specifically about what's going on in their worlds. And we'll do some engaging things in between. We also have some prizes for everybody who's here and who's online in attendance. We've got a couple of really cool big like backpack things. So we'll choose randomly for the people who are in attendance for that. And then we'll ask some quiz questions to see if we did a good job at actually giving you guys the information and throw out some spot prizes as we go along too. Sweet. So our goal for this is to just summarize some of the successes from last season, as well as some of the places that we know we need to improve, and also some of the big changes that we made, or little changes, in order to kind of reach those goals we have for this year.
All right, so review preview. Look, last year we opened November 17th. Sky covered a little of this. We're opening October 31st today. Closing day, Winter Park the 24th, Mary Jane the 15th. Winter Park's closing day is scheduled, I think, the 25th or something, which is essentially the same day. The Jane, we'll see. Season snowfall wasn't so hot last year, 267 inches. Usually we do significantly better than that in the 360 range. So not so great. Maximum base was 80. I remember one of my first years here, we closed and I went back to Vermont and we had an 88-inch base that year. So that just gives you an idea. And total skier rider days, almost 1.1 million, which was a record for us last year. So we have a new leadership team. Yeah, even I was a little confused when I saw it.
You're at the top.
But we added some new leadership positions this year, some new managers. So, you know, a lot of you guys know a lot of our old managers, like Gernot, for example, was in charge of adult lessons and private lessons. Kent was in charge of kids, and he was in charge of all the special programs and all the share winner and all that stuff. And we've broken it out. So we now have Kent as the children's manager. Woo! That's it. He's looking forward to not having to do too much more than that. Christian Nation is now our camps manager. Deanna Reardon, who has always been our guest service manager, but a lot of you might not know her, but you might see her in the PLC from time to time. Gernot is the adult manager, and Sarah has been elevated from a supervisor level to a manager level in the admin. So we also have a bunch of new supervisors. Yeah. So Aaron, who was in the admin office for us, is now our admin supervisor. Elena's sitting back there on the couch. Elena is now our camp supervisor, and we have a whole bunch of new. Reagan, Nick, who's back as a supervisor, so he's not entirely new, but he's back. And then David has moved from adults back to kids.
Yeah.
And Alan has moved from kids over to adults. Just trying to keep you guys on your toes a little bit. But yeah, so as you can see, it's a much broader. Oh, I forgot about Colin. Where's Colin? Yeah, Colin, our new support staff, new support staff.
And
oh yeah, and Sophia.
It's a lot of people, as you can see. We also have David Wilson, who's in the private lesson manager role. Under David is Sophia Binoff, is going to be our private lesson supervisor. So anyway, it's Matt, Rana, and Christian Charzig also swapped places Christian's going to be adult snowboard, Matt's going to be kids snowboard, but like always, they work super close together.
Yeah. So this is a significantly larger supervisory team than we've had in the past. So we've taken a little bit of a look at all of our other resorts in Altera to see what their leadership structure looks like. Sarah did a great job contacting people and figuring out, and we found out that we were significantly undermanaged comparatively for schools our size, with staffs our size. And we were getting, pretty consistent feedback on our employee opinion surveys that our staff didn't feel like they saw their supervisor out enough, right? They're not able to be out there. Well, a lot of that was structural problems. We just didn't have enough people for them. They have indoor work to do. They've got a variety of other tasks. They lead training from time to time. There's all that stuff going on. So this is an effort to get supervisors, managers, and me out on the hill even more, because we've heard that in employee opinion surveys too. No one sees me out there. So that's one of the biggest goals that we have. Some of the others, we're trying to provide 7-day-a-week coverage. So if you have a private lesson question, you can go and ask David or Fia, right? And you know that one of them is going to be there all the time to ask that question to. And then reduces the number of direct reports for supervisors, so you guys can actually interact with your supervisor more frequently, and you can have more conversation with them, and plainly creates more advancement opportunities within ski and ride school, right? So if you guys do have goals of becoming or coming into the management roles, we have more available for sure.
Sweet. Yeah, I can talk a little bit to these slides. Just a quick high-level view at last season. The pie chart right there. Sorry if you guys can't read it at the bottom, but just representing like the returners in the darker colors, darker green and darker blue that we had last year, and the new hires. Total of 366 instructors last year. As of right now, we have 304. Well, I guess I should say as of a couple days ago, we had 304 hired. That's changing all the time. And we still have some room to go to get to our lofty goal of 455. Kind of shoot for the stars, land in the cloud goals there. Once we fill up our employee housing, which we did get more beds than ever before, once we fill up there, it's really hard to bring in new full-timers because they can't find a place to stay even when they want to work here. So we do have a little room to go. Mostly if you got people who want to be a part-time ski instructor, part-time snowboard instructor, those are the two areas we could really use the most help. So please ask your friends. And then just a quick view, Diego will talk a little more in depth about outcomes from training, but we had this many people get certified last year who weren't certified at these levels before. This isn't representative of all the certifications we have here. We're very, very certified crew. And then I believe that, I have to look at my cheat sheet here, 53 people got one of these certs, but we also had 13 people go for 2 certs, and 2 people accomplished 3 certifications last year. Experience. I think what's really important is that we don't just tell you guys what we want to see here is better numbers. These numbers represent what's going on. So we want to look at this as a way of understanding the big picture, and then we know we need to do a lot of legwork to find out why we get the answers we do in these surveys. The engagement is how connected people feel to their job, right? How much we kind of activate you guys. That went down just a little bit from 76 the year before for us. Next we have performance enablement. That's how well you're equipped to do the job, whether it's training or tools or the setup, like the learning area type of things. And we know that we have to support you guys with those types of things so you can take all the good training you have and apply it. We went down just a little bit there. 75% of you guys, or of the people last year who were here, completed the survey, and we really strive to have as high participation as we can, because then we know we get the most realistic view of everything. So we'd like to shoot for a little higher this year, but 217 is a pretty good sample size. So here's some positive trends, places that we moved up from the year before. Always been a strong suit for us. I have the training and need to do my job effectively. We went up a couple points there, 3 points from 81. If you guys are looking at this 2 last columns, that's last year. And then this is how we compare to the other departments at a resort. There's another one that's for all companies or all businesses in Altera. We didn't include that. My manager, direct supervisor supports me to perform my best in my role. We went up a few points there. Happy to hear it. I feel comfortable telling my manager or direct supervisor when I've made a mistake, knowing that we're all learning, especially when you're new at this job. We want people to come to us when they have questions. We want them to go to each other and come to you guys, especially as our experienced when they have questions. So that's good to see it's happening. My result has a culture in which diverse perspectives are valued. This was a newer question with the DEIB initiatives that the resort's doing. So it's good to see we had some growth there. And I'm comfortable voicing my ideas and opinions, even if they're different from others. Another DEIB type of question, we went up a few points there. Just to explain these a little bit, red is when people don't agree. Yellow is when they're like, meh, I'm not sure. Sometimes they choose not to answer, so you'll even see there's less people sometimes answering those questions. And then, of course, green is good. We want to move people from yellow to green and get rid of that red as much as possible. And I received timely, effective feedback on performance. That went up a few points, but it's still lower than what we want it to be. All the ones will go fast. I know my department's goals and how they connect to the resort's goals. I think that's something we feel like we do pretty well. Our goal is to teach as many people to ski and bring them back as possible. There's open, honest, two-way communication. That went up a lot, 14 points, pretty good. I received appropriate recognition when I do a good job. It went up slightly, but we know that's a place we really need to do better work, recognizing, rewarding, highlighting people's best behaviors. I have the resources to perform my job safely, kind of a question that got thrown in there after COVID became a thing. Current safety policies and procedures have been clearly communicated to me. That is another COVID-related question. And things got easier because we got better and also we stopped doing all the crazy stand far apart from each other, put your mask on stuff. So we knew those scores would go up a little bit. Here's some areas that we know we need to improve. And these are either places we went down, and I'm sorry we forgot to include if we went down by how much, or places we just see a lot of opportunity because there's a lot of yellow, so we can do better things to move people from neutral into a positive score. Receiving appropriate recognition, said that already. We want to see a lot of that change to be in the 70s, 80s. I rarely think about looking for a new winter job with another company that used to just say job. Saying winter job's really important because we know that not everybody does this for a living. We think things like our competitive pay plans and benefits and continuing to try to push for what you guys need are going to help us out there. I have the authority to make decisions that improve the quality of my work, giving you guys the power to decide who's in your classes, to work with each other, to tell your supervisors and managers, here's what I'd like to do, and for them to say, good, go ahead. I know Altera Company's goals and how their resort contributes to those. We'll get HR and marketing to help us out with that a little bit. I receive regular information about my department's performance. That's stuff where we can help you guys understand, I think, how we're tracking along with the goals that we're describing today. Are we getting close? Are we past them? Are we far away, and why? And same thing, resort performance. We can maybe translate a little bit of what's happening at the high level resort and what that means for us in the future. Will we get our capital improvements or not?
Jacob was a little worried Sky would still be here.
And no, I wanted Sky still to be here. I got ideas. By far the biggest neutral category we have, and a bunch of people decided not to answer this question, is my resort presence an effective, inspiring leader? That's a question that gets asked at all the Altera resorts. My plan for that is to invite Sky to come join us other times of the season than just REO. And I know you see him a lot on the hill, but we don't tend to get him over to our learning areas in the busy days. And I think what we can do, just like with our guests, is we can ask them to come. So we're going to do that. Some other areas for improvement. We saw this year more than in the past some disparities in gender and how a couple of these questions were answered. Specifically, female or people identify as female, they scored us significantly lower on these three categories. There were some places where we scored higher and a lot where we were the same. But open, honest, two-way communication, receiving regular information about performance, department performance, and then setting clear performance standards for service quality. Those are some really big areas. I don't have answers right now for why those were the way they were. There was a couple of comments that might have alluded to it, but I think what we need to do here is go to the sources. So I'm empowering the supervisors and managers to try to find out from you guys why these scores might have been the way they were and what we could do to improve them, to change that and get those things closer together.
Or if you guys have, you know, if you did fill out the survey and you didn't write any comments, those comments are really helpful for us to give us insight. If you didn't write any comments and you do feel comfortable coming and talking to us about it, we'd love to hear from you.
The other one was in generation. And this one's always had a disparity. There's always been people who are newer to the job who don't have the same expectations as people who've been doing this for 30 years and know what's changed. But this was a pretty large group. Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, and Boomers. They're called it on the slide. I didn't put that in there right there. But you can see the green versus the red, and Diego, just go ahead and throw those in there. Setting clear performance standards, knowing department's goals, open, honest, two-way communication, regular information about performance for the department and resort. You can see as the generational divide goes to the older end, we see worse results there. So again, we want that feedback. We want to know what's going on with each person in these different categories. But Gernot and his adult team will definitely be trying to give us some insights for what we can do to improve those scores.
And David Wilson.
And David Wilson. Yeah. Everybody, but the adult team tends to have a lot more people in that side of the graph. And then our goals for next year, we want to get to 80% participation. If we just have like 3 more Stephanie Daniels, we'll get there because she's the one hunting people down last year. But supervisors will be out there. We're going to make sure that they know each business unit's kind of goals to get participation, and they're going to be hounding you guys for it. And it's just really important we get sincere answers. I'd rather get less participation. People are just going to click boxes and not write comments. But we really want to see as much of a sample size grow as possible. And of course, we want to reduce the disparity between those gender and generational answers. Okay, question, Jack?
So I think in the past we've been paid activity rate for 15 minutes in the survey. Does that sound about right? 15 minutes?
Yeah.
If you do it right, it should take more like half an hour. I know it's been on.
Half an hour off.
We did wait half an hour?
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. We'll save some questions to the end. We'll see if we cover them, but remember what your question is, and we'll hopefully answer them all. Pay plan. Tony?
All right. So last year we debuted a new pay plan, which the majority of our staff really enjoyed. However, there was a lot of people that didn't, right? So the goals of the new pay plan was to reward people who want to work. So that reward was the hours worked incentive, right? So the people who worked the most. Pay people the same amount for the same behaviors. So, you know, in the previous iteration of the pay plan, your base rate was taken into things like private requests, right? So you got 150%. So that meant the disparity between somebody who was brand new and at the time was making $12.50 an hour, just 3 years ago, would get about $6.25 to do a private request. Somebody at the top of the pay scale, which this year is $42 an hour, would get $21 for the same thing. So we're doing our best to make those same behaviors paid out at the exact same rate. We wanted to raise the floor for the lowest paid instructors. I'm sure those of you that have been here for years, and I know I talked to Tom. I told Tom like a number of years ago, this is Tom, my boss, by the way. I told Tom a number of years ago that I voted for Colorado's minimum wage increase to go to $12 because I didn't think we would do it on our own. And we didn't. But in the last 2 years, we went from $12.50 to now $21 an hour at our starting rate. And then we wanted to address some unfairness and historical bias inside of the pay plan. There was a lot of negotiated salaries that were happening, and 11 out of 12 of the people that were being paid outside of their qualifications, years of experience, all that stuff that goes into the pay plan were all male. So we wanted to make sure that we got rid of that for sure.
We also had a system in place where if you had lapsed certification, you were paid at the like one level down. So if you used to be a full cert, we would now pay you as a cert 2. No other resorts do that, and we feel like we really want to put value on certification, raise those rates up. So if somebody is lapsing certification or is uncertified, they are paid as an uncertified instructor. A lot of people, once they see our pay plan, especially new instructors coming to us who used to have certs, they go get them again because they see a significant jump in their pay from uncertified to certified.
So changes, we talked about a little bit. The request pay came a flat rate with hourly incentive tiers. That's very similar to the hours incentive. Hourly teaching incentive, all instructors are now paid the same. To sit in this meeting, everyone's getting paid the same. There used to be a significant disparity for that. And then uncertified rates, as Jacob said.
One more thing to add in there too is, and it's not on the last slide, so I need to go back in there. The standby pay. When you used to teach, you'd show up to line up, you'd be there 15 minutes, you'd get your lesson, and you would get 2 different rates. You'd get paid non-teaching rate for that time you were standing there, and then teaching rate for the lesson. If you teach, you get teach rate from the time that you arrive at lineup. And that's been the case for a couple of seasons. That's not new. It's not new. Yeah. What's new is that we're really trying to communicate that and understand. We can like change pay rates and stuff, but we do understand that if we don't present it really well and don't help people navigate it, that they just might not understand what they're getting paid, and they're usually going to look to the negative side of things, make bad assumptions. So that's been there. It's a good thing.
So yeah, these are our new ranges. So you can see uncertified starts at 21 and caps out at 22.75. And I don't read them all to you, but as I said, you know, if you're on the education staff and you've been here a while, you can make up to $42 an hour in your base rate. Yeah, activity pay we talked about. Teaching hours, we have you know, those incentive tiers to get everybody moving. That's on the pay plan. We have a private request. We also have accreditation, experience pay, and all the secondary certifications that go into all of it.
So yeah, outcomes of the new pay plan, 95% of the instructors who worked here last year that were returners from the year before earned more dollars per hour worked. And Stephanie Daniel has a really great way of helping you understand that if you weren't sure about what you're getting paid and what it looked like. Hourly incentive payouts last year, or I guess 2 years ago, we had flat rates for people getting their bonus. Once you'd accomplish a certain amount of hours, you would get either between $300 and $400. Is that right, Sarah? Yeah. That was for everybody, regardless of how many hours you work. Like Chris McKerney working up into the 800 hours almost, versus somebody who just touched 300. Now that's gone for instructors and replaced by that hourly incentive tier, and some people earn significantly more than they ever would have on the bonus.
So just so you guys are clear, when we said the 95% of the instructors, we look at all of these incentives together and basically take the number of hours you worked and divide that by the dollars that you made, and that's how we came up with that. So yeah. And also, I guess to add some color to it, even under the old pay plan, people's wages went down every single year, and it was usually in the neighborhood of 20 people. And the reason for that is because they either worked less private requests or they worked less hours overall or whatever it was, and there was more activity pay in their pay, that kind of stuff. So it's not unusual in the ski and ride school for you to maybe 1 year make more than the others, especially the guys who teach a lot of private lessons. If you lose a lot of private requests, you're going to make less money. So one of the ideas behind the pay plan was also to kind of stabilize it a little bit, right? So you could get some incentive by working a lot of hours, even if you're not getting those requests, because we still value that.
So I think it's important that you guys understand the department's philosophy on this, and you know, Tony's our director, so he helps us come up with this. And even though we might have all different opinions on what we would pay and why we would pay it if we ran the ski school, this is the reason why we pay more for these things. So we pay more for certification because we really value the foundation that PSIA training offers people, and we want to incentivize people to have some consistent contemporary practices. So we're not going out there teaching all different things.
It's also an objective way to measure how good you are as an instructor as well. It's really hard for us, you know, we have a lot of guest metrics about how you are as instructors, but but PSI is a fair playing field for us to look at.
Accreditations, secondary certs, it's because we value versatility. People who are trained and qualified to teach kids versus adults, people who have alpine certs and things like that, that we benefit from being able to put them in a lot of different roles here. And then why do we have tier 4 and tier 5 in there? A lot of other pay plans that are out there stop at cert 3 and then include things like incentives for when you train or incentives for doing things with those other qualifications. They're considered accreditations or even a job. Like I have a job with PSIA, it's not this job here. But we feel like those people who support the rest of us, helping us move along that pathway, bring a lot of value. One of the main points that Tony and I agree on, and that we'd like you guys to understand, is we pay these things all of the time, even though we only ask you to utilize those skills for us some of the time. So if you have a CS1 or 2, you might not teach kids all the time, but when we pull you over to the kids lineup, you've been getting paid that extra 50 cents or extra $1 if it's a CS2 that whole season up to that point. Same thing if you're a trainer or an ed staff member, we have a secondary certification. So you've been getting paid the whole time you haven't been teaching skiing as a snowboarder or vice versa, so that we can say, hey, we need you today. Some of the things that we introduced last year, and also some of these things are improving, or we're going to improve how we utilize them this year, is we have this single platform. Traditionally, it was used to message back and forth between guest services and people who are coming to lessons or coming to rentals. Now we're going to be using it more and more to message with instructors, and it is a two-way tool, so you guys can use it for things like sick calls and stuff like that. Streamlined newsletter, try to make sure that we're giving you guys the information you need when you need it, and hopefully you can navigate it, so when you don't want to read something, you can get to the next section more easily. And then private lessons, there was a question that popped up earlier about improving that process. That process has vastly improved from when I was running the PLC to where we had 5% of information in for a guest. Now it's like 95% by the time that lesson goes out. And that is a huge effort on part of guest services and the private lesson team to really solicit that information. The process for how we get that information could improve in the future, but just know it takes a lot of legwork and people behind the scenes to do it. And if your guests ever feel harassed by the 10 messages they got from the private lesson center, just let us know that, and let them know it's not to harass them. It's because that's the standard operating procedure, is to send them a request for information every time. Flake timekeeping. Last year, you guys were able to look and see what you did that day and approve it or dispute it. Not everybody did it. We're going to improve that this year, so Sarah and her team benefits from that.
Well,
It's mandatory.
It's mandatory. So there's a new feature. So now not only can you see what you did, but you can see how you were paid, right? So you can see your pay. You can make sure that you were paid appropriately. You can even see the incentives, correct, Sarah? So like if you got an hourly incentive for that day, you're going to see that as part, and then you'll see your lesson portion as another part. So it's really pretty cool, moving in the right direction. But yeah, we'd love for you guys. We really want you to approve your pay so that we can get payroll going.
The reason we really want you to is because if you do it the day after, it's harder for us to edit.
So for those of you guys,
tomorrow and say yesterday was wrong when you had the opportunity to do it today.
For those of you online who might not be able to hear Sarah, we need you guys to approve your pay. And Diego, you can go to the next slides. By 4:30, the day of, you can use your phone, you can use one of the computer stations in the locker room. And if you do that, you will make sure that it's easier to correct anything that was wrong. Go back to that slide. One thing that we need to do better from the operational side of things is we need to be able to respond to your time off requests a lot sooner. We recognize that last year you guys, a lot of you did that with that 2 weeks notice or even more. And because of a lot of challenges understanding what business was going to look like 2 weeks ahead, we didn't always get back to you guys with an answer of a yes, no, or we'll know by this date. And we have initiatives to get that happening really good this season. And then, of course, we want you guys to be confirming your time like we just talked about. We also want you guys to be utilizing your Flake program to manage your class lists. This is about empowering you guys. Christian Nation brought up some good points about positive performance last year that he witnessed with instructors. If he would go to split and the instructor had already called in to the Flake dispatch and moved a kid in their class, so he didn't have to rescan. We want to let you guys know you all have the power to do that right at your fingertips. And then we want to make sure that we're filling out student report cards, just because we know that's a super good way to get guest engagement in the surveys and for you guys to make connections with your guests for things like future lessons or tips. Good question, Brian.
Day off request, do you have any data kind of shows if they weren't approved that day, how many of those people just called in sick on the day they didn't get approved for?
Oh,
is that, I mean, is that a problem?
It's not many, and when it happens, we usually catch it and discuss it with that person.
I didn't know if it was.
So generally speaking, if it's far enough out, we'll tell people, hey, you got to find someone to cover you, and most people make a pretty concerted effort to do that and do that if they can. So it doesn't happen very often.
There's really not a lot of bad behavior.
Does that happen?
If it happens, it's such a minority of people that we don't worry about it too much. And yeah, we have a lot of good behavior when it comes to that.
Good.
Cool.
All right, so last year we taught 45,415 guests. Pretty good number. All right, adult lessons was 11,569 kids, 14,220. Private lessons, this one's a 10,058. It's a little harder to manage that just because we don't exactly know how many people are in it each and every class. Kids multi-week, 1,945 kids bought a multi-week, or parents, I think, bought the multi-week. So that results in 7,780 lessons. Just as a little spoiler for this year, we're already up to 1,411 kids that have bought multi-week.
Right?
What's that?
Yeah, it's individual.
Yeah, it's individual. Denver Parks and Rec, almost 1,000. Share winner, a little over 300. And these are, just so you guys know, the Share Winner and Urban Riders are also total participants. So those programs happen. Share Winner is ×4. Urban Riders is ×4 as well.
Yeah, multiple days.
Yeah, multiple days. Ski and Music Fest. 182, I don't know if that's right, but I think we did way more than that, Jenny. How many did we do at the ski music fest? 182?
I did 100 of those.
182. How much? More. 2,000, Jenny says. So we missed that by a little.
We might have missed a digit.
We might have missed a digit on that. So UK groups, 220 kids. That was pretty small last year, obviously. We're not getting as many people from the UK as we used to. All right, Net Promoter Scores. Do we want to ask a question?
Yeah. For a prize that Diego's going to go find, does anyone want to volunteer to tell us what a Net Promoter Score is?
What does it mean, or like what the number is?
Simple definition of what Net Promoter Score means.
Oh, I
Karen?
It is when the guest fills out the survey, they gave a positive response.
Kind of. Anybody else? Joanne?
I think it's all data driven, and it's a number for each thing in a survey that the guest fills out, and it's averaged out. And if you accidentally put somebody on the wrong shuttle, your score goes, wait a minute. It doesn't come back up.
That's sweet. We'll throw both those guys prize for participating. So a Net Promoter Score, just to move on, because I'm sure we have other ideas of it. A Net Promoter Score is not an average. It is a number that's associated with guest behavior. What they score means something in regard to what they do. So, since Diego's not driving at the moment, a benchmark to measure customer satisfaction. So all sorts of companies use Net Promoter Scores. Insight and customers' willingness to recommend a business to a friend or acquaintance. So if they score a 10 or a 9, it's the same behavior. They are really likely to tell a friend, you gotta come ski with Kate Chasson. They're gonna advocate for the ski school, they're gonna it's marketing, it's free marketing basically, right? If they score an 8 or a 7, Kate was awesome. I'm gonna go check out Aspen next year. Right? No problem with their experience, but we haven't turned them into a marketer for us, right? And 8s and 7s are good scores. 6. I give 6s all the time. If I go to a restaurant, that's a 6. You know, my burger was cooked all right. I didn't get poisoned or anything like that, but I'm going to go somewhere else. But it's the same behavior. I'm not telling anybody about that burger, and I'm probably not coming back to the restaurant to get it because I know I can get a better one somewhere. So a 1 is really bad. I taught a really bad lesson if they gave me a 1. But with a Net Promoter Score, the behavior is the same as a 6. They tell people don't do it, they don't come back themselves.
So, I'm not lying, I got a 0 last year.
That's a glitch.
No, you can ask Jenny, it was a 0.
I don't know
it's
how
actually not
someone
an
can score-
option.
They're not supposed to be able to score a 0. So, well, and just to get ahead of the question, I know
Good job,
it seems like
Brent.
every year, if you guys, and Joanne alluded to this, if you guys manage your classes correctly, if you move a kid from one class to another, an adult from one class to another, and that actually is changed in your class list, which you can look at in Flake, then you're not at risk of me doing the bad job and you getting the bad score. Or vice versa, you doing a good job, me getting a good score, right? So what's really important is that we make sure these class lists are accurate, because then we can make sure that your score is a good representation of what guests think of you. If you think that a guest scored you wrong, we've seen it before where a guest scores a 1 and they write, Brian was the greatest instructor we've ever had. We assume they hit the wrong button. We will reach out to them like we reach out to all detractors and find out what happened about their experience. And they say, oh, I didn't mean 1, I meant 10. So we will contact Flake and we'll get it changed.
And that's definitely like a goal that we're trying to stay on top of, like, and just really be on top of, like, getting to them quickly, because if we let time go by, then it's harder to communicate.
Yeah, so as soon as possible, we send out those net detractor scores or customer complaints to the managers. They respond really quickly. We have to wait for the guests to get back to us, of course, and then we'll find out what happened. And if you guys will benefit from knowing what happened, we will absolutely involve you in that conversation.
Hey, Jacob, just on that real quick, I promise. I can't remember exactly how it appears to the guests, but how is it
This is how it's
separated?
said. We're going to get to the questions that are asked.
Right here.
Yeah. Okay. So there's 2 questions that are asked that lead to the Net Promoter Scores. One is our Net Promoter Score when we quote what our actual score is as a ski school. It's not what your score is as an instructor. So how likely are they to recommend Winter Park Ski and Ride School to a family or friend? And how likely are they to recommend your instructor to a family or friend? They generally give you guys higher scores when they're going to score those 2 questions differently. So next slide. We have 2 places we get Net Promoter Scores from. Medallia is kind of an after experience survey. People who come to the resort may get a Medallia email, and then they indicate in that email what experiences they were a part of. They can lie. And sometimes people say ski and ride school, and they give us bad feedback because they couldn't buy a lesson. And they say that was their experience with ski and ride school, so we might get dinged on that. We got difference in kids and adults. We also get privates through Medallia. So those were the goals for our kids and adult scores last year. These were the results. And these are the numbers of surveys that were actually completed. It was just over 200 for the kids and adults. Flake is something that happens very quickly for most guests. They either get an email or you guys solicit that feedback by asking them to relive their day. And so our goal was 70. 79.42 was our score last year.
So just adding a little color, as you can see, we dropped from 21, 22 in kids from 66 to 55. Does anybody have any idea why that might be?
Class size.
Class size, yeah. So it is a big deal, right? We went from max 5 to, a little bit more to our normal class sizes. So that was a big driver of that. And same is true for adult. Adult classes remain the same in terms of how they were structured. It was 3 hours, 3 hours. And we dropped a little bit, and because the class sizes rose again, we're assuming that's a lot. I think one of the other things to note, look at, it's more than 10 times, it's like 10 and a half times the number of Flake surveys we get from Medallia, despite the fact that Tom judges us based on Medallia. I judge us based on Flake for a lot of different reasons. But it's also a really great tool for us. Like if you guys were to drive somebody to something, I'd prefer you to drive them to the Flake survey. First of all, it's really simple. It's 3 questions that you, Jacob, outlined, and tell us about your experience, just comments. essentially, so it happens in 2 seconds. The Medallia survey is more like, I don't know if you guys have been to City Market and done their survey on their thing, but it just expands, like the more you tell them, the more things you've done, it keeps expanding on forever. So it could take 45 minutes to fill out the Medallia survey, which is one of the reasons I think we don't get quite as much feedback. And as Jacob said, you know, the flake ones, we know our guests that we had. The Medallia ones could just be someone who's didn't take a lesson or whatever. And the other advantage of the flake one is it happens instantaneously. As soon as that class is over, they get an email. So there have been times, and I don't know why they took this feature away. It was great and annoying all at the same time for me, but I used to get flake alerts on my phone as soon as we got a detractor. So if I was sitting in my office and I got a detractor, I could call that guest right then and see what happened, right? And so flake is happening daily. Medallia could be a week old. It's harder for us to correct that service error that we made if we don't know. So that's why I would say.
Also, this number, you know, out of 45,000 guests, this number is lower than it actually would be as a percentage. Guests who participate in multiple days of a program, probably going to leave one survey, right? Private lesson, multi-day assignments. People who know their instructor and just straight tell them, you did a great job, here's $200. They might be less inclined to fill out surveys because they're giving you feedback directly. We really encourage you guys to still ask for it because it really helps your score become more accurate. Karen, you got a quick question?
I would love to get more of my parents to actually do it.
Yeah.
But I do not know what they see when they get the email, what it says, what they see on Flake.
Yeah.
To guide them through it.
So I would encourage you guys to do the Relive Your Day because that's where I would like to get everybody talking to their guests about that option. You go to flake.com, you click Relive Your Day, you put in the date and the Flake ID. If it's a kid, they put in their own. If it's an adult or a private lesson, they put in their instructors. And then you can see what they get. And the first thing they'll actually see on their screen before they get to see their day is the prompt for a survey. They can skip it, but that puts it right in front of them. And then we can give you guys an example of what the email looks like, but it basically just asks those 3 questions.
And then where does the report card come in that?
If you complete a report card before the next day, then they will get an email with the report card and the prompt for the survey. If you complete a report card after that day, 24 hours or something, then they'll get 2 emails, one for the survey and then one for the report card.
Barb, just save your question until after, okay?
Yeah, we might answer it, we might go through it, save. Cool, these are our goals for this year. We want to move up slightly with Medallia, 55 for kids, 70 for adults. We want to get back to 80 with Flake. Just like the EES, the more surveys we get, the more accurate it's going to be. And people who had a bad experience, they want to leave a survey. People who had a good experience sometimes don't think about it. So getting the most people to participate in that survey is going to get more positive scores. Financial stuff. Tony, your favorite.
This is always my department. So last year, I keep clicking you. I don't have to remember. So our budget was nearly $9.5 million, which was about $2 million over our best season ever at Winter Park Ski and Ride. I thought there was no chance we were going to come close to it. We did. 9.2 million, almost. So pretty good, right? And then labor budget, this was also a little bit of a, we did our best to budget for labor, but we ended at 2.9 million for labor in budget, and we spent almost 2.4. And the reason for that was a little bit of not really knowing how our pay plan was going to play out in the real world and how many people were going to actually get some of those incentives.
Part of it is also just we didn't have enough instructors. Our hiring goals are always higher than what we accomplish. And had we had more instructors to pay, we would have spent more money paying them.
Yeah. So, and that was a big part of it as well. Expenses, we were right on budget. Thanks, Stephanie. Stephanie nailed it for us. And yeah, our contribution ended up at almost 6.4 million, which is pretty good. Last year wasn't a challenge, right? We got a new one.
You know what happens when you ask for more money for more supervisors?
So nearly 11 million this year is the goal. And that's one of the reasons that we started marketing. We also started marketing so early, partially. We couldn't market a lot of our products last summer because we didn't know what COVID was going to bring. We didn't know what our products were going to be. This year we were pretty confident in what we were able to do. So yeah, so there we are, nearly $11 million. That's like Steamboat's old target, but I think their new one's like 19. I talked to Nelson the other day. It's pretty.
So apologies for this slide that's not presented as cleanly as it could. It's a lot of information. You guys have access to this stuff if you look in the handbook, or if you go online to the website, you can look at prices there. But I just wanted to kind of present what our prices are for these different products, kind of from the things that are for the most value-oriented guests down to the people who see a lot of value in spending money. So we've got Learn to Ski and Ride promo. Of course, that is only in the beginning of the season, and there's some blackout period over Thanksgiving for that, and that includes the lesson lift and rental. So that's absolutely the best way to get someone skiing or riding for cheap. The 5-pack, if people buy that, then they can use that any time of the season as long as the inventory is available for them to book, and they can effectively get group lessons for $127 per person for adults, $191 for kids. Compare that to the range of prices in the adult groups and kids groups.
So just
packs include the lesson lift ticket each time.
It doesn't, only the Learn to Ski, Learn to Ride product.
So they can either buy lift tickets, or if they have a season pass, they can utilize that. But just so you guys know, those pack products are also transferable. And it's not just transferable to someone in your family. You can bring your neighbors if you want. So if you have groups of people that are all there together and they want to take a lesson, they can walk in and buy a pack product and do it. So
a multi-week lesson is a great value, obviously, and some of those days are in much higher demand. So like the Saturday January program, it's just sold out already, right? And you know, we can drive business into the Fridays during the months that aren't as popular. Our pricing set up to do that. For kids group lessons, we always have a afternoon first time lesson. It's different than the Learn to Ski and Ride promo, just to know that that is always available for first timers. And of course, adult group lessons, we have half day, morning, and afternoon. And then we have new products this year, or returning products from like what we used to do with Bump Jams, the adult ski clinics. Christian will talk a little bit more about that when he's on stage here, but those are a really great value too. And those are generally, except for the women's program, targeted at intermediate to above guests, right? So they get a deal. And then our private lessons, First Tracks is back as a standalone product, not an add-on like it was last year. Full day, half day, and then our Tiny Tots product has been pretty popular. And you guys can see the price ranges in there. It's basically a difference between when they pre-book or when they walk up, when it's peak season or when it's not peak season. That'll get them between those ranges.
And just to make this all a little bit more confusing, so, you know, we've traditionally done kind of let tiers throughout the seasons, right? So we all know that Christmas is a little more expensive than earlier in December. So we've moved to dynamic pricing. I've been asking for some dynamic pricing for quite some time. So for those of you that don't know, dynamic pricing is, you know, if you go on to a hotel booking website of some sort and you see, you know, one day the hotel might be $120, you know, the next day it could be $200, right? Same with airline tickets, all that stuff. So we are going to be doing some dynamic pricing. So what I would ask of you guys is to really, when you talk to people about pricing, give them more general terms, because I'm not even in control of the change of the price. We got people in our revenue management team that are going to be looking at our price, and they're also going to be looking at, are we sold out? How much availability do we have left? All of that stuff. So prices are going to change pretty frequently. So, you know, we're going to ask you guys to go into the private lesson center if you're not sure what the price is tomorrow, or into the rental shop and ask about group lessons and say, hey, what's tomorrow's rate? And know that, you know, if you're walking in that day, you're going to get the walk-in rate, right? So.
Yeah, so the results of this, obviously we can make more money, capitalize on those busiest times, so increase some yield. Multi-week business did shift a little bit into some Sundays with those change in prices for those programs. And what was especially exciting to see, because this is what we really want, is spring break business kind of leveled off a little bit. Instead of having these massive peaks and troughs, we saw a flatter type of curve, which means more predictable business for us. means better staffing for you guys. And if we can do that all season long, those would be some of the goals. Altogether, it didn't drive much change in behavior, especially the one we want, which would be moving guests from really busy times when we can't sell another lesson into a slower time when we can. So we got some ideas for the future on how to do that. So last season, we had 3 tiers of kind of seasonal pricing. There was like an early and late season, a non-peak. There was a peak season, and then there was what we call the send it price. And of course, pre-book and walk-up had different rates. If someone was booking or walking up after 48 hours, the website should be closed, and then they can pay a little more for that. 4 or 6 weeks from now, Tony told me this morning, we're going to go to a much closer to a true dynamic model, which means the ceilings are gone. And there's going to be a number of factors that dictate how prices change. It could be how fast business is filling up. It could be the staffing available for that day, the inventory versus our staffing. And eventually, we're going to get to a place where we can also even lower prices. You know how a hotel will try to just fill up rooms a couple days before. So that seems like a good way to try to incentivize people to come last minute. And we really want to present people with a way of understanding prices, the way that they shop for airline tickets or hotel rooms. Right now, you got to do a lot of clicking to compare our prices across the season. You got to literally click different dates and then go to that next page. So having a calendar view where they could see this price on this day, this price on another day, and then decide to set their vacation up for this is what we want. But we don't have that just yet.
So could a price, like if you're, let's say you're teaching a private lesson, and they're like, hey, this is great, we'll work with you tomorrow. We should probably call the PLC and make sure it's going to be what the price is going to be tomorrow.
Yeah, if you're going to quote a price, if they're price conscious and they want to know what the price is, then yeah, make sure you get
Call
verification and
I would always do that,
bring
but
them in.
But it can change from day to day. That's
It can. It's not going to be quite as dynamic because this is going to be a very manual process for this first season. So it's not going to change as often as like lift tickets, for example. Like our lift ticket prices can change by the hour, by the minute. So it won't be that kind of pricing structure quite yet, but it could be, you know, they bought a lesson 3 days ago, and then when you come in the next day, it could go up by $50 or whatever.
So within that, do we have any kind of like, I hate to say like price guarantee, but if they let's say they book at the $8.99 price, is there an instance where the next day it could be the $12.99
Yes.
price?
Yeah, so the best thing, if you guys are talking to your private lesson guests, the best thing for you to do is tell them, if you want to book, if you think you might want 3 days, book 3 days now. Because if you come and buy 2 and you want a third, that third one, it could be significant.
I guess I'm asking more like the people who come here the first time, which is the bulk of some of our first time clients.
Yeah. Yeah, so it can definitely change from day to day. I mean, that's the bottom line. And if you have like Denver people, you know, the price this week might not be the same as next week. So just let them know.
Cool. Anybody besides Brian Tripp? I'm just kidding, Brian.
That's fine.
I have a question back on, the surveys, have you looked at the full-time and part-time people?
The employee experience surveys? Yeah, there is a breakout for full-time and part-time. It's not, it doesn't have as much disparity in it as the gender and the generation, but the part-timers tend to be in that higher generational category, so they had some overlap there. Yeah. Dion?
Are we paid to fill out reports?
Were you paid in the past to do them when they were paper?
No.
You did them at work, and you can do yours at lunch now too.
No.
Why not?
Not if I'm kids, I'm too busy searching. Yeah, I was doing them on the chairlift.
I was literally.
Can you not do them on the chairlift? So I mean, it's something I think that comes down to like how comfortable you are using your phone, how comfortable you are not dropping it off the chairlift. Finding the time in your lesson to do those report cards is something that I know some people do really well. We have a number of instructors who fill those out every single day, and so I would try to have them share some best practices. Comment on that, Molly. You fill out your report cards.
I actually, last season I did not.
Oh. Last season?
I taught one student pretty much last season, so, but
But the problem is that there's that lunchtime slam, and I've been out of the kids' world for the last 2 seasons, but like between getting from your private lesson, getting to lunch, getting your lunch, sitting down, having enough time to sit there, I did fill them out, putting the beer at lunchtime. And then on top of that, the other problem is that sometimes you're getting kids who aren't from the right level, so you don't have a lot to fill out. All you get to do is write a comment.
Yeah, that's fine. I think the comment is actually all you need.
Well, I think that's true.
Yeah.
So if you're able to get that comment in there quickly and send it, and then whether or not it's linked up to the actual task.
That is something that we have trouble with our system. It doesn't always get through to the guest. We know that.
So, and I did a good job the COVID year being able to go to a supervisor and get that fixed pretty quickly. And that was responded to rather well. But then on top of that, the other thing that I have noticed as a parent is that my child has so many profiles in there, we never know if it's actually getting, like, whether or not we're actually getting it.
Yeah, so that's one of the issues that we have with why people don't get issues is because of the multiple profiles. So, I mean, what I would say to you as a parent is go in and talk to somebody, talk to Deanna, her office is downstairs, and she can eliminate the profiles that shouldn't be there. So they can pull some of those out. And if you have parents that have that problem, what I would tell you guys, I mean, I taught kids here for a lot of years. I always finished I go to Snowasis or something, have a water, go to the bathroom, fill out their report cards, review the day with the kids and bring them down. So you can take a 15-minute break and do it. You can do it also at the end of the day when you're in Sorensen. Yeah.
Yeah. So just so we can move on to some other questions. We want to see the system improve so that everybody's phone works with Flake. We want to set up maybe more stations so that it's easy to jump on a computer if your phone doesn't work. And
Can we get internet service at Oasis?
Yeah.
There is.
Upstairs.
Yeah. We will try to improve those types of things that would allow you guys to do this better. Filling out report cards is not mandatory, but it is something that we highly encourage, and we see people benefit from it themselves. We see people get Venmo tips when they put their handles in there. We see people get responses from their guests when they put their contact details in there. So we encourage you guys to do it for that reason. It's not so Tony and I get more scores. But if you guys have any challenge with it, if you have any ideas to improve it, I would love to hear them. So come and chat with us, and we'll try to implement some of those things, especially if they're easy to do this season.
Yeah, do we ask parents to identify if their kids have got any special medical conditions?
We do.
I found myself managing a little Creighton boy's diabetes in a multi-week, and that was a lot of work. Managing the group and him, and I could have done with another instructor. Maybe I should ask.
There's a couple of methods that we try to capture that information in, and it is up to the guests to read the information about programs or to provide us with information when they get a private lesson solicitation email to get guest information. The support staff, the people who are doing the gatekeeping outside, are charged with asking that question and identifying those kids by using like a little tag they put on their jacket or their pass.
And I would tell you too, I mean, most of the allergy information that we get is pretty benign. It's, they're allergic to penicillin or something like that, and it's more for patrol than for us. So if you have somebody that is negatively impacting the rest of the class, then absolutely go talk to your supervisor so we can either talk to mom and dad and try to find another solution, or have somebody else come along with you to help. But generally speaking, it's they got a gluten intolerance or something like that, and so it's not as hard to make.
Go with one more question.
Barb, I know I cut you off earlier. We'll go with Barb's question and move on.
That would be a great improvement. Yeah. So the question was, could we attach things like videos or images, pictures in the Flake report card? We currently can't. Flake can't do that. However, I would recommend you guys make the comment saying, I've got some pictures of your kids skiing today. If you would like them, please email me and I can send those over. And then you have that connection with your guest. Yeah, you can provide them your contact details. Any questions online? Cool. Thanks, Sarah. Sweet. Before we move on to the next presenters real quick, I wanted to do just a quick thing to help engage our new hires with this group in here. And for those of you online, you can use the comments field to do this, and we will finish this on your behalf. The supervisors are going to come around and pass out a little Post-it note with a Sharpie marker on each ends of these rows. Go ahead, guys. I want you guys to write down, could be one word, short sentence, a piece of advice, words of encouragement, something you would want to say to a new hire if we put it right in their locker. It could be go take your level 1. It could be nice. Nothing changed the income besides the payments. So guys, after you've written down a word of encouragement or something for a new hire to make their season start off right, feel free to take a quick bathroom break and get back to your seat, and we'll have the managers present some insight into their worlds. Stand for a second. Can you stand?
You guys want to stick them on your chair? That's a great idea. Well, nobody wants to put a photo.
Appreciate it.
Hey everybody, if you guys went to the bathroom, please get back to your seats. We're gonna keep going. All right, guys, if we could get started, get back to your seats, we'd appreciate it. Sorry, we're going to stand there for that.
Both trying to drink water really hard. Trying to do training. Yeah. All right. Hop on back in those seats, guys. Real quick, just 2 questions to see if we trained you on anything in there. What's the best way to get a guest to fill out a survey? What's the way that they're most likely to do it? Jay? Ask them.
Okay. What was the starting rate for a new instructor 3 years ago? I saw Tori's hand first.
All right, moving on. Everybody give a hand to Gradot.
You guys, oh God. So on the updates on the adult program, there's not many. So it's a pretty brief presentation. So the lineups in the morning are at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we moved that 15 minutes up. The lesson goes until 12:15 in the morning. And the afternoon is basically the same. It's 12:45, show up, and then 1 o'clock until 4 o'clock. I want to also mention that, Jenny is still around. So we did mention her in the workshop.
35-year service award this year on her 36th year.
No, 38.
38?
38.
Closer
Yeah.
to the next award.
Yeah. And then, I don't think we mentioned, and he's gonna hate me for that. Dave DeVesta is our new training supervisor. So we also have Alan, as we saw on the org chart, and then of course Christian on the snowboarding side. So those are all the supervisors and the adult leadership team. We also had a little bit of talk about the class levels again. So, and we, let's say, upgraded them. Level number 1 is never ever a first timer. Number 2 is what? They didn't get it. Learn to stop, yes. What's next? Learn to turn. So now it's gonna get tricky. What are we having next?
They don't know yet.
No, you guys don't know that. Now we have green trails next. What's next? Blue trail. What's next? Now blue, black, black.
Blue, black, black.
Yes, that's number 6. And then we have the last one, number 7 is black, double black. I don't want to go into the details of that and discuss that. We're going to be doing this in our little business units on the kids side and adults. So those are the new levels. You know what the good thing is? Kids, snowboard, adults have all the same levels. So there we go. On the adult side, we didn't really have a lost guest procedure. The kid side is working with that for years, so we created one in your group lesson. So you can announce that in the beginning of your lesson and kind of like inform the guest what's really the procedure if you lose somebody. So come up with a plan, whatever that might be, and tell them that when they're getting lost, they can expect a call from Flake Dispatch. So you as a coach need to call in to Flake Dispatch and say, I have my guest that's skied somewhere else or whatever, and I cannot find him. So you need to know first and last name. So then Flake Dispatch is gonna call the guest, and Flake Dispatch is gonna contact us. And if the guest says to me, you know what, I did that on purpose, I don't worry about it, but it can happen. But we need to know if we have guests skiing around so we can bring them back into the lesson. Questions about that? No? Okay, cool. What's the phone number for Flake Dispatch? 911. 911, yeah. Now, anybody knows that?
My phone.
It's in your phone. So if you don't know, 970-726 1612. That's your number. Kind of like we started in last year too, a lesson debrief. On the adult side, it's a little bit more difficult. We only do half-day lessons. So we can offer those after the morning and then of course after the afternoon lesson. It can be done downstairs in the locker room. It can be done outside Red Table Plaza. So if you're looking for a debrief and we're gonna set up a system, we schedule supervisor for that, please let us know and we'll do a debrief, which is just basically talking about your morning lesson, your afternoon lesson.
So these are going to be training opportunities that
Yeah.
you can actually sign up for on Flake and get training hours credited to you.
Kind of like the 22, 23-year goals for us as a team. I mean, our Net Promoter Score is pretty high up, but it's still, sometimes it's peaking up and down. So that tells us that on busy times, usually our score goes down a little bit because of what? class sizes. It's busy, it's crowded, could be weather related. So what our goal is on the adult team is to, have that level far up, but then steady, so we don't have those spikes and up and downs in our profile. How are we going to do that? I think it's creating good splits, verbal splits, and then of course the skiing splits. Really connecting with your guests and making sure you understand what they're trying to do and then give them what they want, basically. And the other side would be, we as supervisors, we're going to be your support system. We're going to be helping out on the hill. And since my responsibilities this season are much less on the operational side, we're going to be more out in snow to help. So that's basically the goal.
Do we have one question for Gernot?
Yeah, Kate.
You got time for one question.
Are you gonna learn how to?
Just repeat it.
The question is, are we going to learn how to move students around in Flick?
Yeah, we're going to do that. I know it's a little bit difficult because of time issues on the splits, and we only have half-day lessons, but we are trying to come up with a system, either with a supervisor or with, on the phone to move people around.
Yeah, the system could be that you get rescanned, but that takes a long time. So Flake Dispatch is the best way to do that. You can call in Flake Dispatch and say, I'm moving so-and-so to this person's class. And they can do it on the back end for you. You can't do it in the program. So we have to do it on your behalf. And we're also discussing using Zingle for that purpose. So you could text that. We don't want to just like say, well, let's do that. We want to make sure that that would work really well because we have our admin team or the support staff have to monitor that and do all that work. But that is the goal, to give you guys the ability to make a quick change and for you just see that it's
There's several ways to do it, but we make that happen.
All right, thanks, Gernot. We'll do it at the end. We don't have time. David.
All right.
Cool. Everybody say hi to David.
Sorry, it's good to be back. Sorry about my voice is not good here. I've been fighting something all week, but I'll try something.
Ready.
Oh. Sorry. All right, wave to the, hey, online. Okay, I'm gonna try to go quick here. So, myself and Fia, if you don't know Fia, where are you, Fia? Right back here, she'll be my supervisor. So it's great to have two of us solely responsible for the PLC, and I think it's gonna have really some really good opportunities for us to make some changes. So I'm just gonna kind of go quick, just some reminders, some new, some old. With lineup, we're going to keep limited access to the PLC again this year. It just makes things so much easier in the building. Having said that, if there is an issue where a guest needs to come in, like Tiny Tot needs to put some boots on, we can accommodate that. But the general answer is we want to keep the guests out of the PLC in the morning. Okay? A number of reasons keeps it much cleaner and simpler there. Another thing I'd like to change this year is using you guys. If you're assigned to privates, you're going to be the greeters. And we'll go through this more later, but similar to what we've done in the other lineups, where you will have the information you need, you will greet guests, help them to get hooked up with the right instructors, and just makes sense. You guys are the best people-facing people, I think. And you're already there anyway, so why not put you to work doing that? First Tracks, as we said earlier, they are going to be back as a standalone product. We're not going to have any rear gondola access as we had sometimes in the past. It just operationally, that would need another scanner over by that side. And we're not using the back door of the PLC anyway, so you're just gonna use the main ski school line on First Tracks. If a guest does not purchase a First Tracks, we cannot have 8 a.m. access So in other words, if your guest purchased a half day or full day product, they cannot start at 8 o'clock. They have to start at the regular time. Okay, so we're trying to just, again, there's a number of reasons for that, that we need to stick to the time frames within each product. And also, yeah, so that same, the third line there, just need to stick to that. Here's the lesson lineup times, and pretty much all the lesson times are the same as all the group lessons. So adult and kids, everything's starting the same this year. It just makes more sense, and I think I'm really trying to have a lot of things the same as far as operationally between the privates and the rest of the group world. Otherwise, it can just be confusing. Now, where do I have to be here? Now, where do I go then? If as much as consistent as we can, I think there'll be less room for misunderstanding. Okay, next slide. So some of the private lesson, the priority assignment, just kind of go, I don't think this is as new, it's just more of a reminder. So children's privates are going to be assigned to privates or to instructors that are in the kids' world, and the adults primarily lessons are going to be assigned to instructors that are primarily in the adult world. And how we make assignments, who gets privates, there's a lot of factors that we're trying to consider, and I know there's been questions in the past, why did this person get this lesson, why didn't I get that lesson? Here's just some of the things we're looking at: is ability level, the language, specific goals that the guests communicate to us, and desired instructor traits. The guests do communicate directly through guest services what their needs are, what their goals are, what their ages are. And so we're trying to match those goals with the instructor that's going to best fit that. And so it is a bit of a matrix to kind of fit that all together. And so the question of priority, how does that play into all that? I see priority as the higher priority instructors. What that means is that you're going to get work above lower priority instructors. It doesn't guarantee any certain type of work or level of work. And so there may be days that for example, a lower priority instructor gets a private over a higher priority instructor because that higher priority instructor has more the skills that we need over on a group lesson. You know, and that might be fairly unusual, but I think I use that to make the point that if you see something that maybe doesn't make sense to you, there probably is a reason for it. It's not just a random, there's reasons for what we're trying to do. And please extend that grace to us that, you know, we're trying our best to give the best guest service that we can. And also just in the bottom there, you will see new hires will be beginning to teach privates fairly early in the season because we need them to. And we're going to try very hard to train them so they give a good quality product. And I would ask you guys that are experienced in privates, please help them. And I'm going to be asking you guys to act as mentors in different ways for those new hires so that we can help them get to a level as quick as possible that they can provide a really good lesson product. WheelieCab, we've already mentioned that. It's a less than perfect solution to our problem, but it is the best solution we have. It does run a continual loop. There's no way to speed that up. There's really no reason for us to try to call them. It just frustrates them because they're like, I'm doing everything I can to get back there. And so just be patient as you're waiting either end of the WheelieCab loop. Just be patient. They're doing their very best to move us back and forth. Green room breaks, this is a little bit different. We are going to make green room available for those teaching primarily Tiny Tots, but also other kids' lessons. I don't want those breaks to be a regular part of the private lesson product. It's just as needed as you've got a kid that's freezing cold, needs to go to the bathroom, whatever. You can take a brief break up here, but please avoid the lunch times. And that shouldn't be a problem with the Tiny Tots because those are on either end of those lunch times generally. But just be aware that we don't want you up here when the kids are trying to have lunch. And Snoasis the same. Just try to avoid those busy times. And just real quick, I think this is a just reminder. It doesn't get used too often, but if your guest has a problem in a lesson, please never offer them any kind of recovery specifically. Refer them to one of us, because again, that it gets a little dicey as far as what we do. We will do everything we have to do to make the guest happy, but please don't set their expectations like pie in the sky, like we'll do everything, whatever. But and also just don't offer the discounted lessons through the private lessons if that person that's receiving that discounted lesson has to be in the lesson. And so the maximum size of the privates this year is 4. They can add one more up to 5. And so if there's 7 people in their family and 2 of them are not going to be in the lesson but want to ski, they have to either have a pass or pay a full price, buy a full price product of lift ticket. So we can't offer that discounted product to anyone that's not going to be in our lesson. Okay?
All right, we got time for one question for David. Molly.
I noticed on the website that the time talk this year is advertised as 3 to 4-year-olds, whereas in the past it's been 3 to 5-year-olds. Is that a change?
Can Tony speak to that?
By design. So we can't offer, and we haven't been able to offer as many of those as we like. It's obviously a very popular product. Oh, sorry, yeah, I gotta stand in front of it. So because of our limited capacity, we reduced it for 3 and 4, just because those kids are a little harder to start than the 5-year-olds in groups, so.
Okay, so what could you say to somebody instead of offering them like a discount?
Raise your hand. Talk to my supervisor.
Nice.
I will put you in direct contact with the manager.
And what did Gernot say level 4 was? Everybody was saying blue. You said green. Okay, next. We got camps manager, Christian Nation. Give him a hand.
Holy crap. First off, I'm pretty excited and honored to be standing up here in this position, so thank you for that. Kind of moving into it, Christian Nation, that's my name for those of you that don't know me. Lena Staver, that's going to be my right-hand woman this year. I only got some slides, kind of looking through how Gernot did his. I wish I'd have done mine a little differently, but that's all right. Just going through it real quick. Camps business unit. We kind of took over the ownership of pretty much anything that's going to be like a groups lesson outside of your dailies. We have like the multi-week. We're bringing back those adult camps. And then we've got, our outreach programs as well as UK and Music Kids. I think that's all. And Guppies. All right, so we've got quite a bit on our radar. The goals for the season is increasing the guest experience when traveling to and participating in any of the Winter Park Ski and Ride camps or programs. Looking to grow the adult product engagement while maintaining the standard for the NPS. And finally, this one's pretty important. Continue to offer the programs that enable the children who do not have the chance to come up and participate in the sport that we all get to enjoy almost on a daily basis. Cool, so looking at the adult camps, we've got 3 of them here. We've got the Trees and Steeps, the Bumps Master, and the Women's Only. The Trees and Steeps and the Bump Camp are going to be intermediate and advanced focus. This season for the Women's Only Camp, it's going to be beginner to intermediate. Really excited about this date here for the Women's Only, April 1st. I think that's a super cool day to have that on and really make that something special in terms of that product.
Oh, jeez.
I also think that the pricing for these products are pretty swell. I think that pre-book price at $199 in terms of what they're receiving in terms of, you know, the group lesson as well as the instructors that are going to be staffing these. That's pretty good. Think that we can try and push these as, you know, we're going to be pushing it through marketing as well as trying to get, you know, through daily lessons, you know, driving some of that business like, hey, you know, if you really like this, we've got this product. So I'm looking at all of you sitting out there to help me out with getting these bad boys sold out. Sweet. Moving on to the multi-week program. What's up?
No questions.
No questions right now. We'll wait until the end. I've got a side that says questions. All right, cool. So we got the multi-week program. We're going with the 3 4-week sessions this year for the January and the February. We are skipping MLK and President's Day weekend. That's going to be kind of filled in with those adult camps gap, right? We've got busy days, and hopefully we can get those products, you know, get some business driven towards them. The Share Winter, Denver Parks and Rec, and the Urban Riders. The Share Winter is kind of something that we started last season. It's a grant-making organization that works to improve the lives, health, and fitness of youth through winter sports. That's direct off their website. Yeah, right. Pretty good. Denver Parks and Rec. It's introduced skiing and snowboarding to lower-income children in Denver and surrounding area. And the Urban Riders is going to be kind of like just a snowboard-focused program. All of these kind of run throughout the season, and you know, we've got a big impact, especially as not just instructors but ambassadors for this sport. To really take something that, you know, Altera has kind of given us and really, hopefully, you know, just like we were talking about, if we can start to not just, you know, outreach to those kids that, you know, are bilingual, but, you know, starting to get some of them to come back and become instructors, I think would be a pretty sweet win. Final programs that we've got the Guppies. This is a EEC. That's going to be basically just a program that's heavily discounted for employees to get their kids 2 to 4 years old into skiing and riding. The UK groups is a week-long program for students from the United Kingdom. We're going to try and move that business to the less busy times of the year. So I would expect to see them more on that downtime rather than, you know, the MLK weekends and President's Day weekends. Music Fest. This is kind of these two I got to teach as an instructor. So, you know, I've got a lot of help coming in from Jenny as well as, you know, every other supervisor manager that's taking care of these. The Music Fest, same thing, single day instruction program for students who participated in the musical festival or the music festival down in Granby. Come on up here. My favorite quote that they gave me as I was teaching them, and I asked them to get into an athletic stance. And one kid said back to me, do we look like athletes? Being said, I said, don't give up. We're going to go skiing. Right on. To be fair, you don't.
One question.
One question. TK. Yes, absolutely. If you've got clients that are returning for a multi-week, just find out their session and then reach out to either Elena or I. That way we can best, you know, start to get that scheduling going. Typically, you know, we didn't start to schedule for multi-weeks until like it was crunch time, and this season I've started scheduling already, and I feel like it's crunch time, but I'm just like, take a chill pill. These aren't for a couple of months. So, yeah. Right on, short and sweet.
All right, he talked about Urban Riders. Can somebody tell me what that program is focused toward? There you go. Sweet. Next presenter.
All right, am I on the screen?
Yeah, you asked too many questions.
Hey, everybody, we're going to make this real quick. We've only got a few minutes left. I appreciate all you guys being here and your patience. I'm Kent, kids manager. We've got a bunch of supervisors added this year. Last year, a few times we were down to 2 supervisors. This year we've got tons of coverage. Andrea is back. David Summit is back on kids. We have Reagan Job right here. We've got Nick, don't call it a comeback, Scarangella.
Shouldn't say snowboard, I don't know why.
Chip is in his second semester of his freshman year here. Came through halfway through the season last year to help us out. And coming to us from adult snowboard to kids snowboard is Matt Rana. Thank you. Hey, the goal for kids lessons is to have fun, right? I mean, that's how we are going to get promoters. When the parents pick up the kids at the end of the day and they say, how was your day? That kid says, I had a blast. We're going to get a promoter, all right? We're all familiar with the safety plus fun equals learning, right? If your kids aren't feeling safe, they're not going to have fun. If they're not skiing a lot and we're just blabbing at them all the time, that's not fun either, all right? And they are going to get better if we get them out there skiing and snowboarding. When they get better, that's more fun, right? How does having more SRS supervisors help you? We're going to be there present on the hill to help you with your job. You see us, you're going to see us out on the hill more. We want to help you guys have better outcomes. We want to ski and ride with you and your guests. If you see us out there and we're skiing up to you, that doesn't mean we're there to be critical or, insert ourselves into your class. But if you're comfortable with it, introduce us. Say, hey, this is my supervisor, David Summit. He's going to come and do a lap with us. Or, if we're just skiing by and we wave, just say, hey, Reagan, it's good to see you out here, right? And then also we're going to still have the debriefs at the end of the day for you kids instructors. If you have classes, if you've had a hard lesson, we'll do the debriefs like we have the last few years, or find your supervisor and do a one-on-one debrief with them. We're there to help you. We have a lot of support with extra supervisors this year, and we'll be available to help you have those good outcomes. What are the results of guests having more fun? The guests tell their friends about how much fun it is, right? These are those promoters. We're trying to create promoters who will go out and get us more business. The way we're going to grow this business, the best advertising is word of mouth, right? So if your guests go home and say, hey, my kids were at Winter Park Ski School, it was amazing. Don't go to Copper, don't go to Aspen. Winter Park Ski School has the best instructors who have the most fun with the kids. That's what's going to grow the business, not just for the industry as a whole, but for our ski school and for you guys personally. Guests become promoters, we get a better NPS. They promote Winter Park Ski and Ride School, and they promote you. You'll get better tips, you'll get more private requests, right? So we want those kids to have fun so that they become promoters and help us grow our ski school. The goal is to create fun, memorable experiences so that our guests leave feeling happy, excited to come back, and want to tell everyone else how great Winter Park Ski and Ride School is. Does that make sense?
Woo! One question for Kent. One question. None? Cool.
Nice. Nice, cool.
Colin's up. Or are you just
Support
going to
staff,
talk about
yeah.
Colin?
So the last few years, we've had great help from our support staff. Alan has been running that for the last few years. He's on adults now. We have a new support staff supervisor, Colin Vanek. Yes. One main change is that TLC, sick and sad, whatever we want to call it, is down in the yellow room now. It's not up here. It's not back in this corner anymore. It's going to be in the yellow room. So if you need to bring your kids to sick and sad, or if a support staff member has brought your kids to sick and sad, they're in the yellow room. Don't come up here looking for them. Don't send parents up here looking for them. Yellow room. Flake. 5G connectivity. Hopefully we won't have those GPS bouncing around. Hopefully when we look on the Mountain View, it won't show your kids on the train tracks because the signal is bouncing around. And we've got a bunch of new animation coming. We're going to make Marmot Flats look like a playground this year, right? So, yeah. Questions about support? One question about support staff. Excellent, right?
Sweet.
I've done a good job then.
Moving right along. So I'm just going to go over some training program stuff with you guys this season. Try to do it quickly. We try to facilitate like a lot of training opportunities for you guys. Like that's my main job, is to like make sure you guys have all the options possible to like lead or just to develop yourselves in this industry, right? Nope, went the wrong way. That one got like plugged up. We're good. So again, I've got a new position this year. I'm training manager. We've got Dave DeVesta. Go ahead and stand up, Dave. Sweet. You guys don't know Dave. He was actually helping out with grooming last year, but yeah, he's back here with us out of retirement as a professional like training program manager from other industries. So he's very helpful in helping me get organized for my cool. Sweet. So yeah, our job is to provide training opportunities for you guys, provide a wide range like morning clinics, half days, full days, evening trainings, impromptus, debriefs. We got it all. Our theme is to help you guys be better tomorrow than you are today. And that's should be the theme of your trainers as well. So 265 instructors participated in voluntary training last year of more than 5 hours. So awesome. 3 instructors had over 130 hours of training each. 2 of them are here. We used all certification reimbursement funds and were able to partially reimburse some instructors for secondary certifications. Some of the goals for this year, we want to increase the number of certifications passed from 81 to 90. We'd like to increase the number of certifications attempted from 120 to like 130 plus. We'd like to increase the number of voluntary training hours from 7,200 to over 7,900 potentially. And we'd love to increase the number of instructors voluntarily going to at least 5 hours of additional voluntary training from 265 to 290. We have 8 new hires coming in with some kind of level of accreditation. We have 144 returning instructors according to the onboarding sheet. So that means like 152 certified instructors like coming into this season. We're half certified. Love to get that number up to 200, right? So training opportunities, we got New Hire Academy. New Hire Academy is just going to be the 2 full day format, no more half days. Training prep in the form of NHA prep, pod prep, and I'm reaching out to people that are like solid level 2 instructors that we want to develop into good trainers and have a developmental training program for them. Certification pod training obviously is returning, it's always a big hit. Prep camps will be there, peppered in. Impromptu clinics, those are clinics like facilitated by your supervisors or anybody left over at lineup. If you guys have something that you really want, voice that to your supervisors and we'll try to get those kind of day of. AM clinics, obviously we have ski, snowboard, early birds. We have, morning refresher topics like those rehire training clinics from last year that I told new hires couldn't attend to. They're just gonna be called refresher training and new hires can go ahead and join up. So that's good. Debriefs at the end of the day, and all the online training is gonna be through Workday now. Sweet. So yeah, in-person / online REO. This is going to give you guys those 3 paid training hours for rehire training. Again,
it'll be more than 3.
Yeah,
you're going late.
We'll adjust. And then yeah, whoever's going to the trainers meeting later today is obviously going to get paid for that. Again, I touched on that AM rehire stuff. Refresher clinics are going to be offered every single day, and then once we get into January, they'll be on the weekends. And then it'll just be like team slides and early birds after that. Cool, so some follow-up goals. We want to like reverse tag a minimum of 2 hours for like these new inexperienced instructors and hopefully get them some more insights like earlier on. And then obviously have those debrief clinics after lessons for like everybody, not just for the multi-week programs, but you're gonna see it much like those team slides are scheduled every day. Those debriefs are gonna be scheduled every day and you'll get credit for that time spent kind of regurgitating your day. Sweet. So a couple pod talking points. Pods mostly going to be on the same days with the addition of Alpine Level 1 being offered on Tuesdays and Wednesdays so that I don't have like 2 groups of them on Sundays and Mondays. It's just going to kind of spread us out a little bit better. Again, you should only attend pod if you have the day off. Pod participants should be aiming to attend all the trainings, especially level 1. It's only 6 weeks long. If you're in like a level 2 or up pod, we recognize that's a 16-week long program. Aim for like 75%. And yeah, obviously after you pass, you don't have to keep going. Cool. So just kind of some of the dates. Again, more or less the same. It's all starting kind of that week of December 11th, kind of depending on what is on what. So level 1 pods Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Level 2 pods are going to be Sundays with John Naughton, Tuesdays with combination of rotating trainers. Level 3 pods are going to be Sundays and Wednesdays. RMT and CRMT pods are going to be on Thursdays, and we're going to try to have like our TTP, like outside examiners coming in to help with those. Next, snowboard pods are more or less on the same days. We don't have as many snowboarders, so we just have them on Sundays and Mondays for level 1, Tuesdays for level 2, Thursdays for level 3 and RMT. Thanks.
Snowboard, do you want to talk about snowboard or?
Yeah, just child specialist training series. Yeah, so with the CS pods, like I never had really like enough signups to like justify a pod. People always wanted to like sign up for like one here or there, like for their exam or something. So these are going to be a training series offered weekly where you're registering like if you want to go to that particular week. If nobody signs up that week, I'm going to cancel it well ahead of time so we can use that trainer otherwise. Again, these are multidiscipline skiers and snowboarders attending these. If you're going for a CS1 or CS2, we're combining that. And then we'll also offer them as like AM refresher topics and evening training. Freestyle is kind of the same style. So again, it's just going to be a series. It's not going to be a pod format. Everything else is more or less the same as like the child specialist stuff. There's going to be alpine on Mondays and snowboard on Mondays. Those will be separate. Next. Cool. So morning clinics, again, team slides run by 2 supervisors. That's starting the week of December 20th. AM refresher clinics with topics including star splits and wrap-ups, kids teaching tactics, train advancement, class management, and guest-centered teaching. Again, available to new hires, rehires, and early birds are obviously coming back. For those of you who don't know what that is, these could be anything from like teaching, improvement, movement analysis, or just improving your own skiing and riding. Next. And evening clinics, we're going to have locker room MA with Alpine coming back on Saturday evenings in the locker room, snowboard on Friday evenings in the locker room. Debriefs are going to be kind of at the end of the day, 3:30 to 4:30 for like kids and multi-weeks, 4 to 4:30 for adults, especially the ones ending like PM and privates can utilize that debrief as well. And then online clinics, I've got mostly kind of scheduled on like Mondays and Tuesdays. Next. So just some general policies, yeah, so you can't sign up for a pod like just by registering on Flake. You got to email me, email Dave, or do the pod enrollment form, right? All other trainings, obviously, you can sign up for on the Flake training calendar. Hopefully attendance is being taken. That way you get credit for going to that pod. If you are unable to attend a training, you are expected to communicate that with the trainer so that they're not surprised and unregister yourself. You all have this power, okay? Sweet. So only like new hire training, trainers prep, and morning clinics are in uniform. All other trainings are out of uniform. Again, uniform pants are okay because they don't have a logo. Points. 60 plus new hires opening weekend. So just be ready for that. A lot of people are going to need to tag lessons.
Not this weekend, yeah. The old opening weekend.
So yeah, November 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. In that 4-day window, there's going to be 60 plus new hires. So debriefs will be a regular part of the end of day schedule, and AM refreshers are both for rehires and new hires. One question. Yes.
Is there an option for the CERT training with the pods or half a day? If so, how would you sign up?
So all pods go to half day once they are during falling into peak times. So
how would you sign up to teach just half a day?
Yeah, you communicate with your supervisor.
Admin,
Yeah, or
email admin, yeah, he's got it.
Yeah, if you're off on a regular day that you're attending a pod and that pod is a half day, you can email admin, schedule a change request form, and just say, hey, I'd love to work in the morning and help you guys out. We would love that.
Cool. I'm going to take a deeper dive into all this stuff, obviously, with the trainers later. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, like always, feel free to email me or Dave. Please.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your attention. If you have
Thank you.
questions, we'll all be around for a little while, so come on up and ask any